All right, here we go. Adam22, owner of No Jumper. Welcome back to VladTV.
Hello, Vlad. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I mean, we've been doing each other's shows now for some years. You do mine, I'll do yours. We'll mix it up.
Yeah.
You know, we've both been doing well over the years. Congrats on the success of No Jumper.
Appreciate it.
You know, what you do is a little different than what I do. You've really carved your own lane, and seems like you've been growing it every year.
Appreciate it, man. Yeah, it's been 2020, all things considered, pretty solid year, despite all the bad shit. It was a little hard to get people to come in for interviews for a while, but, yeah, surviving.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, speaking of interviews, OT Genasis, which you were not part of.
I wasn't there, yeah.
You weren't there. But it seems like the fireworks went off today on that.
Yeah, it was like, so AD is my homie from Compton. He's like one person that we sort of brought in to do the news a little bit with me. And then, I mean, he just kind of never left. Like, we just kept doing the news together. And eventually I was like, bro, like, you should have your own podcast where you can kind of bring in people that you have a vibe with, that you can speak to and stuff. And OT is like his best friend. Like, they've been on tour mad times together, been all over the world together. And yeah, they were doing the podcast, and I guess OT felt kind of disrespected by Yassi, who's another girl that works for me, and actually more so her friend. I guess he felt disrespected by them. So at one point in the podcast, he's kind of like yelling, like letting them know how much money he has and stuff. And so I feel like I kind of might have missed exactly what the perceived disrespect was that made him want to go in like that. But yeah, that was pretty intense to be sitting at home on the couch watching.
Yeah, I mean, yelling at someone about how much money you have will just generally not work.
No.
Regardless of what led up to that. It just won't.
Especially in that case, it's like, you're OT Genasis. We all know you've had huge records. If you didn't have a lot of money, that would be unfortunate. We all assume that about you. So I felt kind of confused, like why he was going in that direction. I guess he genuinely felt like the girls were kind of trying to little bro him or just like try to play his shit down. And so he didn't feel it. But I mean, I don't personally podcast drunk. They were drinking a lot during that episode. So that was a little interesting.
So everyone was drinking?
I believe everybody was drinking, yeah.
Yeah, I try to avoid that.
Yeah.
I try to avoid it. I never drink during interviews. My guests generally don't drink. Every so often, they'll bring their own liquor.
Right.
You know, like a crunchy black. And, you know, if I'm doing the interview remotely, especially, I really have no say.
Yeah.
in this,
I've noticed that whenever they're smoking weed or like getting fucked up or whatever, that it's usually like you're not with them or they're not in this space with the drum set.
Yeah. You know, because we're doing a job. It's professional.
Like, I love smoking weed, but I don't think I'm a better interviewer when I smoke weed. You know, I feel like I'm faster and more high energy when I'm not smoking weed. And a lot of times I watch people make YouTube videos where they're like looking into the camera, smoking a blunt, and it's just like, nah, like you just do that after. Like, nobody wants to see your conversation slowed down by you inhaling and exhaling and shit.
Yeah, pretty much. And I guess, because when I first saw a reference to that video, the OT Genasis video, I went to the YouTube video and it was taken down.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, I guess it was just taken down. And then I saw it, I think on Shade Room, like a clip of it. And then we ended up posting that clip just because we didn't have access to YouTube video. So was there some sort of drama behind the scenes?
I mean, it was just like last night, AD's like, oh, yo, like OT, like the label, or I don't know if it was label or like a girl or whoever, like they weren't happy about the way it looked. They asked us to remove both the full interview and the clip. And I was, you know, I'm thinking like, this is kind of pointless because it's already on, I mean, it wasn't on Vlad yet, but I think it was already going around on Twitter and stuff. It was like, you know, now it's on the Shade Room, it's on Hollywood Unlocked, it's on all these different outlets. I was telling AD, I'm like, it's kind of pointless for us to remove it because that just makes him look more like he did something wrong. Like if we remove it, then it's removing the full context. People are going to be sharing a 60-second clip where OT looks angry versus the full hour-plus interview where it might seem more understandable that he got a little heated. But at the same time, it's like I gave AD a weekly podcast, so I felt like, you know, if you want to remove an episode, we'll remove the episode. I just want you to keep this in mind in the future that this is like not really like a super intelligent way to handle this. And in reality, like, you know, this is probably the biggest moment at this moment that your podcast has had on our channel. So if I were you, I would kind of lean into it. We did remove the clip that was titled like OT Genasis gets mad after feeling disrespected on No Jumper. But yeah, that's where we're at.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, because we have third-party interviewers as well.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people will step onto our platform not realizing how big things can get.
Yeah.
Especially if they haven't been in this world before. When they've just been interviewed themselves, or they're actors or musicians or just behind the scenes industry people, they might have their own channels that don't get a lot of views, and even crazy stuff sort of comes and goes. When they get onto a VladTV or a No Jumper, and this thing ends up being humongous, they have problems dealing with it.
Definitely. And like, I will say something on my podcast that, I'll get maybe like, if I say something very controversial where I'm still right, I could easily get 1,000 people hitting me up telling me like, that one thing you said is fucked up. And it's like, in order to be a public presence, you have to be able to get 1,000 people telling you that you're a fucking idiot or that you're wrong about something, and still be like, all right, well, 100,000 people saw that, and the other 99,000 people seem to vibe with what I was saying or whatever. It's like, you have to kind of be confident at a certain point. Like, to me, it's totally unthinkable. I would probably never delete a podcast for something I said, It's like impossible for me to imagine.
Yeah, the only time that we've ever deleted anything is if something was fundamentally wrong,
right,
or false in what we said, or the person that we're interviewing just ends up not, telling the truth and being, a fraud in one sense or another. That's when we're like, all right, we're taking it down, because we try to stand behind actual facts. We're not going to get it right 100% of the time,
right?
But when we get it wrong, we do take it down.
Yeah.
But if someone gets mad, we don't take it down.
Right.
So if you ever see something get taken down on VladTV, it's not because someone got mad or we got scared or nothing else like that. We're not really scared of anything. Like, this is our job. But if we do get it wrong, we will take responsibility for getting it wrong.
I feel it.
Well, we're in the middle of, the only way I could describe it was an attempted coup on the Capitol building, where a mob of hillbillies, trailer trash, and general low IQ individuals decided to storm the Capitol building.
Yeah.
And managed to get inside. And sat around, got into the main chamber, sat at the desk, at the podium, got into people's private rooms, trashed the place. 4 people got killed. Plus, 4 people who are actually, what I like to say is essentially terrorists. I wouldn't call them protesters. I would say they're terrorists, because that'd be disrespecting protesters. And 1 cop was killed. When you saw this happening, what'd you think?
Really, I was like in a pure state of shock watching all this go down. But I think that now I'm made myself a little bit more educated about exactly how much inciting Trump was doing towards this leading up to it, and how much conversation there was on all these sort of like alt-right social media platforms. Like, I was listening to the New York Times podcast about this today, and they were reading out the conversation that was happening on Parler or whatever, these forums where these people discuss this stuff, maybe people who've been kicked off of mainstream social media accounts. And it's pretty shocking. I guess that the main reason why they didn't have the National Guard, or they didn't have the same level of military presence that you saw during the protests over the summer, was that they were very much trying to avoid the optics of making it look like you have the military attacking or defending themselves against civilians. But you saw the result of them being underpowered like that. I think that the main thing that stands out to me is that like the one woman who got killed, they said that she did 4 tours in the Navy or in the Air Force or some shit like that. Like, she was, a real patriot, I guess, at one point. Like, I on one hand, my first reaction was like, yeah, it sucks that you're dead, but what the fuck did you think was going to happen? But I kind of take some of the onus off her and put it on Trump. Like, I feel like he directly incited these people to put themselves into a position where some percentage of them are going to lose their lives. A whole bunch of them are going to go to jail for 10 years. And then what does he do? He gets on fucking TV the next morning and says, you know, this was a deplorable act on attack, or, you know, Trump really denounced them this morning. Like, these are his most hardcore supporters.
Yeah.
He didn't even have their back for 24 hours.
Nope.
He fucking shits all over him, which really tells you all you need to know about this guy. And so, and the way that he shit on Pence, you know, like Mike Pence was a loyal fucking soldier. You know, he was one solid Lloyd Banks for a long time there, man. And to see him just get thrown under the bus by Trump acting as if Pence was supposed to actually step in and not certify the election, it's like, I mean, he's really asking Pence to throw every last bit of his reputation in the trash right there.
And Pence knows he couldn't even do it.
He couldn't do it, yeah.
You're asking someone to do the impossible. Like, you know, go part water.
Yeah.
I can't part water. Go part it. You're disloyal if you don't try to part it. Fuck?
This little saga just really tells you everything you need to know about what a piece of shit Trump is. That he, you know, he had somebody, you know, he's had all these people who've been incredibly loyal to him, and he hasn't even been able to reciprocate, you know?
Well, a lot of his cabinet has quit.
Yeah.
You know, Nancy DeVoe quit. Mitch McConnell's wife has quit. His chief of staff has quit.
Bill Barr's the fuck out of there. Everybody.
Yeah, everyone's out of there. Twitter shut him down for 12 hours.
Facebook and Instagram for at least 2 weeks.
If not forever.
Yeah.
Instacart shut down all the stores selling Trump merchandise.
Shopify won't let him run his store through there. I feel like we are entering a...
Snapchat shut him down.
YouTube even. We're entering a very... I think that the rest of Trump's life is going to be a pretty dark sequence of events. You know, he might have some amount of people backing him up and stuff, but I think he's going to be in and out of court for the whole rest of his life. I think that his business interests are going to be like deeply affected by this. I think that, you know, even if he doesn't spend the rest of his life in prison or some chunk of his life in prison, I really feel like he's going to walk away from all this just wishing that he had just stayed a businessman.
Yeah, but he has, you know, you could say that, but there was like 70 million people or whatever, 65 million people that voted for him. You can't just say he has no base. He has no fan base. He does. But all those people voted for him.
A lot of those people were addicted to the power that he had. And it's the same thing we see with rappers all the time, where when you're the dude, there's a million people around trying to suck you off. And then as soon as you're not the dude, and like with him, it's just he's about to lose power at such a dramatic rate. I don't know. I feel like people tend to ride with the winners, and I think that now that he's quite decidedly, clearly not the winner, I'm very interested to see what happens to his approval rating in the wake of the attempted coup.
Oh yeah, because even the Republicans are turning against him.
Yeah.
Do you think he'll be impeached?
No, because they need too much Republican support. I don't think it's really too much of a possibility. I think that they're trying to impeach him just to put all the Republicans on the record as not impeaching him after this. Because, I mean, how the Republican Party recreates themselves from this is going to be beyond fascinating.
Yeah, no, I looked it up. This is the first president since 1932 that has lost re-election, the House, and the Senate, all in one fell swoop. Wow. Trump has essentially destroyed the Republican Party as a one-term president.
And so now they have to make the decision if they're going to sort of double down on somebody who is sort of Trump's ilk, or maybe like somebody who supported him along the way, or do they have to just completely start anew and just find a person who is going to completely represent maybe the opposite of Trump? I don't necessarily know that they have that in them. I don't know. But what they do in the next election is going to be crazy.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, I feel that Trump is a traitor. He should be charged for treason. He incited a riot to try to reverse a presidential election. Pushing this false narrative ever since he lost by a landslide. He went through every court in the land and got struck down by every court in the land, including judges that he placed himself in those positions. And when all that failed, he decided to take this mob of people and tell them to basically storm the Capitol building. He posted a video of people destroying federal property. Said, "Oh yeah, I like this type of thing," which is what triggered everything else. Him and Ted Cruz.
Yeah, Ted Cruz is the biggest pussy ever for just not having the heart to stand up to him, especially after all that shit he said about him and his family and shit.
Called his wife ugly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really understand how Trump could avoid going to prison for inciting this whole thing and for trying to overturn the election and stuff. And, it's like every time I say anything anti-Trump, I end up with a large percentage of the YouTube commenters who want to let me know that I'm a fucking idiot and that I've been duped by CNN or some shit like that. If you are still on board with Donald Trump after what you've witnessed this week, you, my friend, are the king of the goddamn idiots, because this has just been such a shit show. And it's just, it's like impossible for me to imagine that people are really still falling for this shit. But there is some large percentage of the country who is. And it's kind of sad.
Well, there's been reports that Trump may pardon Lil Wayne and Kodak Black. I've been calling the Lil Wayne one for months.
Yeah,
I don't know if you watched my interviews or not, but I've been saying this. I said the reason why Wayne took that picture is because of his federal gun charge, and Trump is going to pardon him in exchange for that picture. The fact that Wayne pleaded guilty already and didn't even try to fight it at all, because look, you could fight anything. Wayne could have dragged this case out for years. Easy.
Good
With his
point,
lawyers? Come on. But the fact that he accepted a guilty plea very quickly, right before Trump is out of office, I would even put money on it.
It's interesting. I wonder how much leverage Wayne would really have over him at this point now that he's lost the re-election. But I mean, I think that what's important to consider, regardless of if he does that, is how many people he's not pardoning who really deserve to be pardoned. Like I was just reading about, there's a guy it's a black guy who got life for trafficking marijuana. And he's still serving life right now. And I'm sure there's millions more, not millions, but I'm sure there's many, many more like him. And he's been petitioning Trump hard this whole time, trying to get his sentence overturned and shit. And, deaf ears. Like it's not happening. Meanwhile, Trump is almost exclusively pardoning people that are his friends, his buddies, people that could do something for him. So, like if he does pardon Wayne, like I don't really want to see anybody in hip hop saying like, oh yeah, look at Trump. He really fucks with the culture, rah, 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 because there's so many dozens or hundreds of people that he could easily, with the flick of a switch, he could let all these people out. I mean, somebody serving life in 2021 for trafficking marijuana is heinous. Like there's no justification for this.
Yeah. I mean, although to be fair, like for example, Reggie Wright Jr. went to prison for trafficking marijuana recently. You still have to follow the rules. Just because marijuana is legal does not mean that you could move hundreds of pounds of it across the country and illegally. And
because if I smuggle a fucking truck full of tomatoes across state lines without the proper paperwork, I could get a whole case.
That's the whole problem as well. Right. So you can't just say, "Oh, marijuana is legal, free all the marijuana convictions." Nah, not really.
I feel that the thing is, this guy got life.
Yeah,
and he's been sitting in there for dozens of years already.
I'll give you that.
That's the part that to me is just like unbelievable. Like I fully realize what you're saying too, but I mean, that's just crazy to me.
Well, I mean, you interviewed Y&W Melly at one point. He's still sitting in prison.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like the case even started yet.
I think COVID shit pushed it back like crazy.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How was that interview?
That interview was not good. That was it was a weird one. Like, he's a person, he always would talk about the two sides of his personality, Melly and Melvin or whatever. I mean, I think I only kicked it with him 2 times in person. And the first time was in the studio and we just hung out, and he was a huge ball of energy. Like he was having some drinks. He wasn't smoking or nothing, but he was just having some Hennessy, and he was just so much fun. Like such an interesting person, talking to me about his music so much, like recording, crazy watching him record. Like the way he recorded was just unbelievable. Like and was just a huge ball of light. And then I interview him a couple months later, and he comes in with a completely different energy. And I don't know if it was necessarily because he had seen a lot in the industry, even just in his few months at that point, or if it was just, that was his day. Like certain people, a lot of great artists, like you'll catch them one day and they'll be super excited, super up, and then you'll catch them another day and they'll just be like so low key, like fucking. I saw you interview Sosa Geek.
Mm-hmm.
I got the leaned out Sosa Geek. I was watching interviews before that on like random ass New York radio shit, and they had the up Sosa Geek. Like he was full of energy. I got the Sosa Geek. You never know sometimes, but with Melly, that was a good one. But no, it was good to get it in, to have the conversation and stuff. The one thing that went viral after he got his case was the fact that he was talking about how I was saying how I wouldn't get somebody's name tattooed on my face unless they had died. And then he's talking about his boys who were sitting right there. I didn't realize until after they passed that they were sitting right there. But he's talking about how he had them tattooed on his face. And then ironically, they're dead like a year later.
Oh, and is he being charged with killing those guys?
Those are the dudes, yeah, who were with him during the interview.
Not to say that he did it.
Right.
Because, with us, we got to be careful about this type of thing. Not to say that he did
I'm not saying he did it, but
not saying he did it.
Chaser and Juvie were sitting
but
right there.
he's being charged with doing it. Yeah, man, it's eerie. It's eerie when you interview or you talk to people who end up passing shortly afterwards. We had an interview with G Money.
Who they just...
We didn't have an interview. We had an interview scheduled, with G Money for like the next week.
Right.
And he ends up getting killed.
Oh.
Like literally right before our interview. They ended up, I guess, charging the guy who allegedly did it recently.
Today, years later. Was it 3 years ago or some shit?
Yeah. NBA YoungBoy affiliate.
Yeah.
Not to say he did it either, but this is what he's being charged with. Pop Smoke, I talked to a couple days before, we were talking about doing it the next week. We've interviewed people like Frank Collado, who died afterwards. Mo3, who we both interviewed, who ended up getting killed. And, to me, the eeriest part, because people kept tagging me with this, I was talking to him about using security. He goes, nah, I don't really need security, in Dallas, ain't no one chasing me down.
I'm all right.
Okay.
I'm wearing my I pay for this motherfucking necklace. I'm wearing this bitch.
Okay. Do you have actual security with you when you walk around?
No, I just got good friends, man. We are good friends, and I got my homeboys with me. Security sometimes is with me with the shows and stuff. When the promoter booked me, they got their own security. That accommodate me and shit. Shout out to them. But other than that, like, I ain't worried about none of that, Vlad. So, I ain't got no security. I'm not out here, nobody chasing me down, trying to do nothing to me. So I ain't worried about none of that.
And it's like someone literally chased him down.
Yeah. That's crazy. I was in Dallas, and by the way, R.I.P. G Money, and shout out to Fredo Bang. That's one of my favorite people in the industry. And I know that was like, defining moment in his career. Like, that's the person who put him on.
Yeah.
But I was in Dallas when there was a big show with Yella Beezy was playing, and Mo3 was supposed to be there. It was a Juice WRLD show, and like Yella Beezy and a few other people were like the openers. And there was actually like a clip that went viral of Mo3 getting arrested trying to enter the venue, because Yella Beezy's like, they were supposed to have issues. So I don't know who told the venue security not to let Mo3 in or whatever. But I would have seen him again about a year ago after we did, or about a year ago, but before that we did the interview. And Mo3, man, that was a cool dude. And I actually got to see like a interesting side of him when we did the interview, because he did the interview, and then Dolph and Key Glock were coming right after to do their interview. And I told him that, and he's like, yo, like, is it cool if I stick around? Like, I just want to meet Dolph real quick. And I'm like, yeah, for sure. And it was just like cool to see him as a fan and shit too, because he clearly had so much respect for Dolph and just like wanted to say hi and meet him and all that shit. And I don't know, when I heard that he got killed, that was a huge bummer, because Mo3 was stupid talented, and he was just like a really good, warm individual,
You also interviewed King Von.
Yeah.
Who got killed.
I think it might have been like our biggest one last year.
Yeah, because I remember one of the interviews was titled that he couldn't be around Lil Durk legally because both of them were like involved in some case.
I think they still have a case. Or, well, Durk still has a case right now on like an attempted murder type thing.
Yeah, so the two of them couldn't even be together. I mean, ironically, their biggest song right now is them together.
Yeah, from before all that shit with the crazy story stuff and all that.
Yeah. Watching that situation unfold was really fucked up. We had never interviewed him, but I'm real cool with his management, and I interviewed some of the other artists on their label, like Hot Boy and those guys like that. So we were like in the process. I remember literally the morning. I woke up early that morning and I hit up his manager and said, "Hey, what's going on with the Von, the King Von interview?" And then I turn on my computer and I'm like, "Oh my God." I'm like, yo, I'm so sorry. Like, I just found out, like, yo, this is crazy.
Yeah, the day he got killed, the day before he got killed, the label was hitting me up to delete a tweet that was posted on the No Jumper Instagram where he had a bar that he tweeted where he said something like, this pistol will turn a straight dude gay or some shit. Like, it just sounded kind of crazy. So he deleted it right away. And, they were all hitting me like, yo, like, can we get this deleted? Like, he's trying to do another interview soon, blah, blah, blah. We're going to come through all that. And I'm like, I fuck with King Von. He's a cool dude, so I'll just delete this tweet. I know he didn't mean it like that, whatever. And then, he's gone the next day. That shit's such a bummer.
I mean, a lot of people are comparing his situation to the Tupac situation. And I think that there's a lot of validity in that. Here was a guy who ran up on somebody, because at first you're like, he looked like a victim. Right. And then the next day, the new video came out where you see him run up on Quando Rondo, who I've interviewed before, and just start hitting him. Based on, there was some sort of back and forth nonsense that didn't really look all that serious from the outside looking in. And Quando's guy had a gun and killed him. And you just think like, yo, if that just never happened, if maybe there were some words thrown back and forth, whatever, both of them could have went on with their lives. And to see it unfold like that, it was just like, oh man, this is such a waste. Like, and then you see all this dope ass music. Like I said, like the biggest Lil Durk song right now is with Von doing 2/3 of the song, doing the hook and doing, the verse and everything else like that. Like, he's really blowing up now, bigger than he ever was when he was alive.
Yeah. I think I had only even listened to the Von album like 2 or 3 days before he passed too. And I remember thinking like, this shit is insane. Like, this is probably definitely one of the best, like gangster rap albums that I heard come out of Chicago, really. Like, I mean, King Von kind of like represented the next wave of Chicago. Yep. Obviously people like Polo G and shit too, but after like the Durk and the Chief Keef movement, which is, damn near 10 years ago now, I mean, I think so many people looking at King Von, because he has such a charming personality and stuff. You would read all this insane shit about him. When I did that interview, I actually hadn't really like watched videos on YouTube about his criminal issues and stuff, it was way crazier than I could have realized. But I mean, he had like a baby face and he was just such a smooth dude. And like that combination of him being this like super likable, like friendly, smooth dude, plus the fact that he was really from all that shit and could speak so genuinely about it. I mean, that's a crazy combination for the fans. Like, you could see why the fans were so fucking enthusiastic about it,
Yeah, sad. Rest in peace, King Von.
For real.
I never got to meet him or talk to him. I was a fan. And, like I always say, when you look at these situations, everyone who survives these situations has to look at it as a learning experience and say, look, don't run up on people. Don't go back and forth with people on the internet. How's that? Look at all the people that have dissed me over the past year. We have not heard one response from anybody. I have not responded to a single person because it's like, yo, you can't let social media get you out of character. Fuck what social media says. 2 days later, they're on to something else anyways.
The other day, I was riding my bike downtown with a bunch of my friends, right? And, you know, I was getting stupid love. Like, I just had so many goddamn people come up to me and take pictures of me in the couple hours I was riding around downtown with them. But then I had one dude while we were like riding down this hill, and this dude just yells out, "Hey, no jumper, your shit is trash." Like, mad serious. And one of my friends was like, "You want to go fuck him up?" And I was like, no. Like, just keep pedaling, like. But it's like in that moment, like we could have like for seriously fucking packed this dude out. I would have a lawsuit.
Mm-hmm.
I would
get arrested.
There'd probably be a video online. I would probably get arrested. I mean, yeah. I'm not saying it's the same exact situation or anything, but I'm saying that if you get to this point, you got to be able to turn off that thing in your brain that makes you want to wild out anytime you get disrespected, you know, because it's just once you have a lot to lose, it's just you're not on equal territory. You got to let a lot of shit slide, you know?
You got to act your wage.
Yeah.
That's my term, act your wage. If you're worth hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars, you got to act like you're worth that much money.
Mm-hmm.
What are you arguing with someone who's making minimum wage for?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Not to say one person is better than the other, because we're all humans and we're all equal in that regard, but that person has less to lose than you.
Yeah.
In fact, that person is looking at you as a come up.
Yeah.
You don't come up with fucking with that person. You just degrade yourself in multiple ways. But that person build a whole career off you. The baby was just arrested with a gun on Rodeo Drive.
Yeah.
This guy can't catch a break.
You can't catch a break, man. That's a shame. But then at the same time, it's like the baby on Rodeo without a gun or without somebody in his crew having a gun. I mean, it's basically like the cops are asking him to roll around like a fucking idiot and to, you know, basically invite a situation in which he could get killed, you know?
Well, I don't know the details of it exactly, but you should not be carrying a gun yourself.
Do we think he had it on him directly? I thought it was just in the whip.
So you're right. Someone had called and allegedly said that he had a gun. I don't know whether he flashed it, or I mean, not he flashed it, but maybe someone flashed it or whatever else. They pulled over the vehicle, searched the car, found a loaded firearm. Number one, I have people who, you know, who have loaded firearms also that are with me, and they're legally licensed to carry. So if we ever get pulled over and the cops say they found a gun, that person will say, "That's mine, officer. Not only am I legally the owner of this gun, but I have a legal right to carry it and have a concealed carry." So the baby has tons of money, can hire whoever he wants. There's no shortage of, you know, bodyguards in LA who are legally carrying guns.
And I would assume
no shortage.
I would assume that it would be somebody in his crew or one of the bodyguards who had the pistol on him. Just my assumption. I've seen how the baby moves around. He got a lot of large men wearing all black with him. Every time I seen him around, I actually, when I think about it, the last time I was around him in person, he was at my store, and it was before he blew up, and he didn't have anybody with him. He was just on some chill shit. But yeah, like I just would assume that.
Listen, I understand that people don't like to be around cops, and a lot of times the security guys who are allowed to carry are cops. I get it. But you got to grow out of that shit, okay? You have to grow out of the shit because the ramifications of it on the other side are too severe. The fact that they found a gun in the car and it's on him and there's other people is crazy to me.
Yeah, I don't know why it's on him. I would think
the fact that someone didn't say, "That's my gun,
right.
That's mine." You know, like, but then again, I mean, you've seen, Lil Wayne with his gun charge. He went to prison for a gun before. Ja Rule went to prison for a gun. Sometimes it's not all cut and dry. Sometimes you're not allowed to say that it's someone else's.
Right.
But if you just have a standard security guy who could just say, "I am security, this is my legal gun, we left it in the car for whatever reason," I don't know. But then again, You know, remember those pictures of little baby?
Mm.
Remember when he was like taking pictures of a little girl and he's got something in his hoodie?
There's been times, man, you know, that's a very rapper thing to keep the pistol in the hoodie part right
in the
there.
hoodie part, right.
Let me tell you, like, there's been rappers I've seen who they're huge, they're rolling around, they got multiple security guards around them and stuff, and then I see them a year later and they got no security guards and they got a pistol in the hoodie. And that's just, you know, now they're doing their own security because it's like, I mean, I don't know. I had security at the store after the fool tried to run in and shoot me or whatever. I experimented with a couple different levels of security at the store during that. And let me tell you, they were all very expensive. So I could see how people, that would be an expense that they would be likely to cut early on in particular because, you know, at a certain point, it does feel like this is kind of like a crazy fantasy that somebody's going to try to do something to me, especially when you're in your own house or whatever. But, you know, I see it all the time where, I mean, and even somebody like Lil Baby, I mean, I feel like if he almost certainly has somebody around him in that moment who could have held that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people, you know, they like that feeling of having it on them, you know?
Yeah, you're right, because your security might hesitate, right? But then you're into a whole world of problems if you have to pull out and fire. Yeah. Whereas if your security does it, it's not that big of a deal. They get on the stand and say, I had this gun, I was protecting my client. Right. This is what led up to the situation, and this is why I fired. You know, my main security guy will have no problem doing that. And you know what's more important than hiring armed security? Going to prison for 2 years and making no money during that time and losing all the opportunity of that time. You know, for example, you look at Larsa Pippen and Malik Beasley. Did you hear about Malik Beasley's whole situation?
No.
He was in his house, which he was renting. Some family rolls up to the house that was house shopping and decided to like get out of their car and kind of poke around his house.
Wow.
He comes out of the house with like a rifle and like points it at them and tells them to like get the hell out of there.
Oh, word.
And now he's, you know, they went and called the police and he basically had to plead guilty to brandishing a weapon.
On his own property?
Yeah.
What the fuck? That's crazy.
Yeah, I think they're like in his driveway. He like went to the driveway, like pointed the gun like through the window. and was like, yo, get the hell out of here.
Man, this is why we all got to move to Florida, Texas and shit, man.
Oh, yeah.
Fuck that. That's crazy.
Well, what do you think about the whole Larsa Pippen, Malik Beasley thing?
I don't know who the fuck Malik Beasley is. You're talking about him. This is the first time I ever heard of him.
He's a basketball player.
Oh, yeah.
Plays for Minnesota.
I mean.
Well, she is 46. You know, the ex-wife or the current wife of Scottie Pippen. I'm not sure where the divorce is right now. They have like 4 kids together. Malik Beasley's 24.
Wow.
It's real cougar action right here.
Respect. That's crazy. Nah, yeah. I mean, I hope that when my girl's 46, that she looks good enough that she could potentially leave me for a 24-year-old NBA dude. I mean, I hope it doesn't happen, but that certainly says a lot about, you know, there's certain girls in the game that just seem to have this like irresistible quality about them that motherfuckers just can't leave them alone. Like for me, when I look at Larsa Pippen, I'm like, cool. Like, you know, she's not ugly. She's an all right looking woman. I'm not gonna fucking go break up my family for her. I'm not like I don't really know what's keeping all these what's keeping Scottie Pippen coming back. I don't know. That's just kind of crazy to me. I've seen it with Lori Harvey. It's like, man, I mean, her pussy must be doing something because all these dudes are just lining up.
Well, I think it's no different than why a lot of girls are attracted to like rappers or athletes or whatever. These men become groupies of these women. I think point blank period. That's exactly what it is. Yeah. They are groupies of these popular women.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, look, the Kardashians are, you know, were attractive in their heyday, but all these years later, all the plastic surgery.
There's more attractive women that come with no baggage.
With no baggage. I mean, like, Khloe doesn't even look like the same human being anymore. Like the amount of work that she's got done on her face alone, much less the rest of her body. Like, yeah, it looks cool on Instagram, but in real life, when you look at the various Kardashians and, you know, and everything else like that, it can't be all that attractive once the makeup is off and you know, the filters are removed, and, you know, in real life.
My girl showed up one time with some fat ass duck lips. Like she just got some shit injected into her lips. And I just looked at her and I'm like, you're not gonna do that again, right? And she just, you know, it's not like I feel like I'm in a position to tell her what to do with her face or nothing. But I've seen so many girls in LA get their fucking lips pumped full of shit and then they just look horrible after, and they just, I mean, there's no coming back from that. Like, I mean, I know the shit kind of dissolves sometimes and it doesn't look as bad going forward or whatever, you can get taken out. I mean, come on. It's like, you don't want to run around looking all crazy like that. Like, I recommend to girls, like, be minimal with the plastic surgery. Like, you don't need to take it to this crazy ass extent. I hate when I see a girl who's beautiful and she just got her lips way too plump. That shit kills me.
I mean, have you seen what Kylie Jenner looks like before? You know, we actually have a red carpet interview with her, a very short one. She's actually talking about Kanye, how she's a fan of Kanye.
Right.
But we have a short interview with her before the lips, and she looks like a totally different human being.
Yeah, I've had people tell me that because I never used to watch Keeping Up with the Kardashians and shit, and people would be like, oh, do you remember what she looked like when she was 18? I'm like, no, I don't even think I ever thought about this girl until she was fucking with Tyga. Which I guess she was doing that when she was under 18. But I didn't even like know who she was when she was younger because I'm not really that clued into the gossip shit. But I did see a picture, like a paparazzi photo that came out of her just going, like getting out of the SUV or whatever. And she looked like the most normal ass white girl. I could not believe it.
This is her right here.
In the car, I'm obsessed with like Childish Gambino and like, nice. I don't know, Kanye always, but I don't know.
Yeah.
This is around 2013, maybe?
I went to school with a lot of girls that look like that.
Look at regular.
They don't got 100 million followers.
I mean, she's attractive.
No, I
mean,
definitely.
She's cute.
She's probably the baddest girl in the game. It's just a fact that now, in order to be the baddest girl in the game, you also have to get a shitload of plastic surgery and not fuck up the plastic surgery. You can't afford a botched surgery because then you probably won't be so popular anymore. But yeah, I mean, I respect the girls who are out there like upping their fucking value over and over by getting these surgeries and managing to do it in intelligent ways. But I mean, girls should just be careful because I've seen a lot of bad ones too.
Well, we talk about plastic surgery. Blac Chyna was one of the forerunners of that whole, you know, at least the butt implants or the shots or whatever she got going on. You actually interviewed her.
Tried, yeah.
Yeah. She walked out. How long did the interview last until she walked out?
I think it was 18 minutes or
18 minutes.
The full thing that's on YouTube is the full thing. Yeah.
The full thing. Okay. Why did she walk out?
Well, it all started because she walked in and she wanted to use the bathroom. And I mean, my space is in a warehouse. So the bathroom is like, you know, it's pretty akin to like any warehouse you ever been to. It's not a nice bathroom. It's not like a, you know, it's not the bathroom you would see in some mansion or some shit, but yeah, it's not the worst bathroom I've ever seen in my life either. And she takes one look at it and she's just like, no, I'm not doing it. She was so pissed. And I'm like, all right, do you want to, I think like, I was like, you want to go to like McDonald's around the street or some shit? She was feeling that either. I'm like, there's a Starbucks. She's like, no, like, let's just do this interview. I'm like, I already knew. I'm like, this is not the energy to be going into an interview with because, you know, if she sat down and had done like a good interview, like actually showing the version of herself that I'm sure exists, like I'm sure that there's a really cool, nice, positive, interesting person within Blac Chyna, she came in and gave me the most bullshit ass interview. And I couldn't believe it. The crazy shit was how Amber Rose hit me up like a week later and she wanted to do an interview. And then she came in and she did basically what Blac Chyna should have done, which is she showed up and she was super cool, super friendly, super nice, answered me on everything I asked her about. And I think as a result, Amber Rose had a nice round of media attention from that. You know, you had TMZ and everybody reporting on it. They covered her positively. Meanwhile, Blac Chyna does my shit and she just acts like that. And what was really funny about it too is that she had a dude with her. I don't know his name, like her manager or something, like an older black guy, not older, maybe like mid-30s or whatever, and seemed like a very, maybe part security guard, like seemed like a tough dude who was definitely holding her down or whatever. And he's sitting there the whole time, doesn't bat an eyelash, doesn't fucking move. And then as soon as she walks out, he just comes up to me. Appreciate you, brother. Boom. He's out with her like he wasn't fazed at all. Like he had seen her do this kind of shit a million times. And that killed me. Like this must be just not that out of the ordinary if you're involved in Blac Chyna's career.
Well, the story was going around that she makes $17 million a month off of OnlyFans or something crazy.
I know basically the vast majority of the top OnlyFans girls.
Okay. Who are they?
Jem Wolfe is huge, the basketball player girl from Australia.
Okay.
Riley Reid is huge. There's a bunch of different
That's
girls.
a porn girl.
Yeah, in the like more mainstream porn world, like I'm not ashamed to say that my girl's like probably in the top 10 or top 20 on OnlyFans.
Okay, so let me pause right here. Is this public information? How much they make every month or no?
I mean, I'll ballpark it. Is that I've known girls on OnlyFans who are pulling in $500,000 a month.
$500,000.
And that's upper echelon.
Okay. Have you heard of anyone making $1 million a month?
I've heard it in the news when they're like, oh, Bella Thorne made $2 million in a month or whatever. I've heard it in the news. But in terms of like my conversations with girls about how much they're making, I've heard of girls hitting around the $500,000 mark, and I've heard that there are some girls who might in a month do close to $1 million in a month. But 17 million in a month, I mean, I highly doubt that Blac Chyna is doing 30 times what the most poppin' girls that I know are doing. So I don't believe that for a fucking second, to be honest.
Well, she is extremely popular. She is tied to the Kardashians forever.
But is she 30 times more popular on OnlyFans than Riley Reid when she ain't even doing shit on OnlyFans? And Riley Reid, just for example, not to throw Riley Reid all in this, but she kills it. She works super hard on her OnlyFans. She makes tons of content.
So she does a lot of porn scenes and
yeah,
stuff
she
like
does
that.
original scenes. All these top girls, they're doing like really high quality content, I feel. So yeah,
well, but Jem,
what the fuck?
Jem Wolfe doesn't do porn scenes or anything, does she?
No, and that's kind of crazy. She's been on it since super early. And I heard that she just kills it, even though I think all she does is just put her hands like that, cover up her nipples.
Right, so she doesn't even show nudity.
No.
She's just a thick white girl who plays basketball.
We interviewed her a while back. She's super nice, kind of an unlikely OnlyFans millionaire, but hey.
Hey, listen, if you're making that type of money, invest it. It's not going to come forever.
Because, just a side note, that Jem Wolfe girl just got her Instagram deleted.
Oof, why?
A bunch of girls got deleted off Instagram at the same time for basically like violating the nudity policy over and over. So, I mean, her getting her Instagram deleted is bad news for her.
It's catastrophic.
OnlyFans. It's actually weird because like I've talked to her a bunch of times since we did that interview over the years, and now her Instagram's gone. I don't even know how to communicate with her. Like I wouldn't be able to call her or email her or whatever because I wanted to find out more about how that went down. But a lot of girls been getting deleted off Instagram for nudity.
Yeah, no, I mean Instagram and Facebook is very touchy when it comes to pornographic type stuff. Whether it is or isn't actually pornographic, even something that's like inferred. Like remember when Boosie got shut down off of Instagram? He wasn't showing OnlyFans content, but he was showing girls that looked like they were in sexual, like he kind of cropped the images and it was like a sexual type of thing. Now we don't know exactly because Facebook is really very much of a black box. You don't know why they do certain things on like a YouTube or a whoever else, other platform. But, he got shut down. In fact, his live just got shut down off his new account.
So they are allowing him to have a new account?
Well, Boosie new IG. Let me go ahead and advertise that for him.
I just think it's crazy because like I feel like if the Gem Wolfe Girl she got deleted off Instagram. I feel like if she starts another one, she's not going to be allowed to. So I'm surprised if they would let.
Well, allowed to? No, I don't think it's that serious. I don't think they're going to be following who she is. And when she starts a new one, they're going, no, I mean.
Twitter does that.
Oh, they do?
Well, my co-host, Lil House Phone, he got deleted he got banned off Twitter.
What did he do?
It was some crazy shit, but he dissed somebody, but he also, I think, might have said the N-word with the hard R, which he himself is black, but apparently the Twitter algorithm didn't give a fuck about that. So boom, he's gone. And he's tried to make a new account multiple times and they're not having it.
Wow.
Which is crazy.
That's serious.
Yeah.
That's serious. Well,
he's just had to kind of give up on being in the loop on Twitter, which is it's kind of sad for, we do a podcast together and I'll bring up something that was huge on Twitter and he'll just be like, God damn it.
Don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, speaking of OnlyFans, you interviewed Celina Powell and Eliza, which ended up going viral because they claimed that they serviced 7 NBA players.
Well, not Celina, Eliza.
Oh, Eliza?
Celina wasn't around for that one, yeah.
Okay. What happened after all that? It seems like there was just a bunch of chaos. Because weren't you supposed to do a podcast with them or something? What was the name of this podcast?
Yeah, they had a podcast. So we do one interview with them. That was maybe my 3rd interview with Celina, and it always would go viral. Like, everybody always would just be coming up to me, talking to me about that shit. People really are drawn to her, in particular when she's on No Jumper, for real. Because I see how her YouTube does, and it does fine. But then she comes on No Jumper, and it just goes crazy every time. I don't know. Maybe it's the dynamic of me and her, and I feel like she felt like she was kind of running out of her fucking slut stories to tell, so she brings her friend Eliza with her.
Slut story.
Because, I guess Celina didn't have a sucking off 7 NBA players story, so she brings Eliza through. Eliza tells a story. I think part of it was the way that she told the story like it was no big deal, and everybody would just think it was some regular shit, and we're all watching it just I'm doing the interview just jaw dropped, wow, you're really telling us about this. You're telling us the team. This is crazy. And then
what team was it?
The Suns.
Okay. Allegedly.
And she named the players too. I don't really know about basketball, but she was listing off players in the Instagram comments too. So
in the comments.
It was a few years ago, yeah. But then so we decided, let's just make this a weekly thing. We'll give them a podcast. It'll be called Thoughts Next Door. That was their idea. And they did a couple episodes, and I guess I just kind of underestimated the extent to which giving her a show would change the way that people viewed me doing content with her so much, because it went from this is a person that Adam does podcasts with occasionally to Adam is setting up a platform for these girls to destroy black men. And it got kind of it got a little consistent with that, where they have the Odell Beckham shit that they're talking about him. They're talking about.
So tell me, what exactly did they say about Odell Beckham Jr.?
Well, it wasn't even them. It was they brought on Slim Danger, who's Chief Keef's baby mama, one of Chief Keef's many baby mamas.
Yeah, I think have I met her? No. Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Right.
Yeah. Didn't Tekashi take her on the shopping spree back in the day or something?
Was that her? I don't know. I honestly couldn't say, but they had her on, and she had a bunch of shit to say about Odell Beckham.
Yeah, it was her.
It was her, okay. And, I wasn't even on that podcast. I'm sort of in the other room listening. And it just very quickly, them doing the podcast was starting to get the brand of this is this platform for these girls to just tear down successful black men. And, it was one thing when they were saying shit about Trey Songz. Maybe people don't necessarily aren't that likely to feel bad for Trey Songz.
Right. And I just want to say with the Trey Songz thing, I remember seeing that back and forth. He posted up their text messages.
Right.
And it showed that she wasn't really being honest in the way she was telling that story.
And to be honest, the media kind of twisted her version of the story because she was never really on there acting like a victim. She if you actually listen to her, she's talking about, she's talking about getting peed on and all this shit, but she was never saying that he forced her or anything. She was just saying that she did it and that she was along for the ride, and then apparently she felt like exposing him afterwards. But the way that people perceived her saying stuff about Trey Songz versus the way that people perceived her saying shit about Odell, who has a fairly clean image and whatnot.
What exactly did she say about Odell?
I don't remember. I don't want to like rehash it.
All right, fine.
You know, it's like that.
People can go look it up. They can do their Googles.
Because I don't know if it's true, and I don't fucking.
Okay,
you know, I
fair
ultimately felt like, and also it's like, you know, when I talk about AD, I talk about like there's other people involved in No Jumper and stuff now, and at a certain point, these things kind of reflect on other people within it, and it very much like, you know, we got a shitload of views that month from them doing the podcast. I mean, people were going crazy for it. I just kind of realized like this is not worth it to me. Like I would much rather run a platform that has like a more moderate pace of growth than to sort of involve myself in this constant drama that was going to follow me if we kept doing that, you know?
No, I feel you. Listen, did we do these types of interviews early on with VladTV? Yes, we did. They're still on our platform. But at some point, you're like, it's kind of like a low-hanging fruit situation where like, look, we could interview these girls or these guys that are going to spill the tea about their personal relationships and stuff like that, you know, but it's not the type of thing that we want to be known for.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really just not the type of thing that we want to constantly put out. Now, you know, are we going to interview the Tupac rape accuser? Yes, because that's a historically important story.
Right. Even the Sarah Molina thing, it's like
Sarah Molina.
She has an important story to tell.
It's an important story that ties, she's the baby mother. She's not just a girl who had sex with a rapper and is now trying to get 5 minutes of fame. She has a baby with Tekashi who's in prison, and you know, she's revealing him cooperating and the whole story and everything else like that. There's a historical importance to that. Is there anything historically important about a girl who, you know, slept with the baby? No, there isn't. There isn't. Even if it's true, there isn't.
I get those DMs all the time, like, yo, I fucked so-and-so, give me an interview.
Yeah, I get them all the time too, and I turn them down. Turn them down. You know, we don't do porn stars anymore. You know, I just refer them to you. Like, yo, go do No Jumper. That's their thing. But that's more their thing because you actually are more involved in the porn industry and everything else like that. So it'd be a better place for, you know, for this group of people anyways. What happened to your OnlyFans porn, whatever thing that was supposed to happen?
It's still in the works. It just honestly like got pushed back a lot because my girl had to give birth, you know?
Well,
so
yeah, there's that.
My baby is 2 months old right now. And she's just sort of getting to the point, well, she's just, because she has C-section, she's just getting to the point where she can work out. She's just getting to the point where she can like actually work on like, you know, feeling more happy and confident about her body and whatnot. So we're going to bring that back. It's definitely coming. We have a bunch of episodes in the can. We just really want to be consistent. We want to drop 1 episode per week. So I had to hold off and wait, you know, for the whole baby thing to be done. But we're planning on getting back to work on it pretty soon.
Okay, because didn't Celina Powell do a porn video?
Yeah.
With you guys?
Yeah.
Was it just her or?
Her and a male porn actor that I hired.
Right. Didn't she claim that you used her or whatever?
When we got rid of her podcast, which by the way, with me and her on good terms, we managed to squash all this shit, whatever. But, you know, she briefly went on Academics' live stream and was kind of trying to act like we, you know, coerced her into doing it or some shit. It's like, no. We have all the paperwork signed. We have every goddamn moment of you being on set on video, you know. She tried to say that she was drunk. She had a fucking bottle of tequila when she showed up. We took it. I had to hide it behind the couch because I was like, you can't be getting wasted. Or, like, you know, I didn't personally see her really drink anything significant. Maybe saw her take one little sip. Then I took it and I hid it. So, I mean, it didn't really feel like anybody was taking her that serious when she was trying to say that she wasn't consensually doing that, you know?
Yeah, you know? I mean, it's a weird world.
If that clip ever does come out, we're going to have to go through another round of like, here, Celina, here's a fucking phone book full of forms I need you to sign to make sure that everything's on the up and up with this coming out. Because, you know, I wouldn't want to put it out unless she was 100% cool with it.
Well,
Even she was cool with it when it happened, but
I saw like a short clip of that, so it never came out.
No,
it just got leaked somehow, or
the actual footage didn't get leaked. There might be an iPhone clip of her with the guy or some shit.
okay.
But like our shit is actual like full quality porn. Yeah.
I mean, so you're going to essentially have a full-blown porn company.
Yeah, I would say probably within the next year or two. That's something that once you've kind of seen the business up close and personal and you sort of realize how much money there is to be made and how much good content isn't really being made because there's so many goofy ass people in the industry that don't really know what the people want. I felt like one time somebody dropped a comment on a video of me and my girl and this other girl, and they said, "Streets know this is certified hood classic." And that, like, in that moment, for real, like, I just felt like that's who I'm doing it for. Like, I want to really like give somebody some rare ass content to jerk off to that they're not gonna forget.
Okay.
That means a lot to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Iggy Azalea and Playboy Cardi.
Goals.
You claim that Iggy sabotaged Playboy Cardi's album release.
Well, I mean, she was pretty quiet about their relationship throughout the entire relationship. You know, we did see her, like, you know, say "I'm single" on her Instagram story. We saw her have a couple of tweets here and there about how she felt about him, but she essentially waited until the eve of Whole Lotta Red coming out to unleash her actual opinions about him and him as a father and whatnot. So, I mean, I guess I feel she did try to sabotage it. I mean, it was her last gasp of being able to have an effect on his career, be able to insert herself into this narrative, you know? Like, there was all this hype leading up to a Whole Lotta Red, and she was kind of part of it, and then she finally comes out and lets everybody know that she thinks he's a shitty dad and whatnot, and you know, it's pretty interesting.
Well, Iggy came over from Australia to the United States to get the hip-hop experience. Went and got pregnant by one of the hottest rappers out there. 6 years her junior.
Yeah.
Coming out with the #1 album in the country. They're not married. What do you really expect? Are you really that surprised, Iggy? Seriously. Come on now.
But
come on
fair,
now, Iggy.
The scenario that she was describing did sound pretty fucking crazy. If he was really like at her house the night before, telling her they were going on this family vacation and all this shit, and then right at the last minute, he decides he's doing an album release party instead, which is a completely understandable decision as an artist. I mean, you would think that the album release party would be booked significantly in advance. I feel for her. Like I have a 2-month-old baby right now, so I'm very much like in the throes of seeing what it's like to have a kid for the first time. It's very hard for me to imagine not wanting to spend Christmas with my kid, you know. I mean, I felt like she was a woman who had been pushed to her very last strain of sanity, you know. I mean, maybe people think that she was expecting too much from him and whatnot. I don't know, man. I mean, at the end of the day, if you put a baby in a girl, I feel like it's fair for her to expect a certain level of behavior from you, right?
Well, if you guys are together.
Yeah, but even if you're not married, I mean, they were together. Like, I'm not married to my girl, but we're together, you know? I would have thought they were together like that at that time.
Well, look, if you're not married to the person, that's just a baby father or a baby mother. Quite honestly. That is all you can expect. Now, hopefully you'll get a lot more than that. And in your case, you guys have a different type of relationship. Like you guys actually live together, right?
Yeah, I don't feel we own a house together. I don't feel
right.
So I don't feel like our relationship is any different than if we were married personally. But I mean, a lot of people are. Oh yeah. I feel you.
That's what you think.
Okay,
that's what you think until you really are financially and legally tied with that person, and it's not so simple.
Right.
Because regardless, I mean, you guys have a house together, but outside of that, you guys could just wake up one morning and say, "Nah, we're good." And walk away, and that's that. There's no court, there's no whatever. I mean, the house is gonna have to be worked out somehow, but it sounds like you guys are probably 50-50 owners if you're both on the deed. So that's that. At the end of the day, you have a baby with someone, they're not marrying you. Didn't they even announce they weren't together after the baby was born? You know, they're gonna be like co-parents or whatever else.
Did they even announce that? I feel like they just...
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
I thought that they announced that they're not actually together, that they're just going to be co-parenting, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But at the end of the day, this guy's 6 years younger than you. He's 24. He's in his early 20s. He's not trying to settle down. He's on top of the world right now. #1 album in the country. Like he's the hottest thing smoking. Kanye's doing songs with him. Like, yo, you could have not kept the baby. How's that? How's that?
The baby was planned.
Was
according
it?
to her. According to her.
And this is what I want to say also, is that throughout this whole process, all you've heard is her side.
Yeah, but you've never heard him, like, have you heard Playboi Carti speak on camera for the last few years? Like,
Not really.
He's very deeply invested in his vampire aesthetic that does not allow for him to speak on camera. You know, I always like look at somebody like Playboi Carti and think about how fascinating his career arc is in comparison to take somebody like Lil Yachty. They came out at similar times. They both had very unique styles musically, you know, doing something different. Yachty has treated himself like a normal person. He goes out, he does interviews, he kicks it with people, he does songs with random ass artists, he does songs with underground artists. You know, he just puts himself out there. He's on social media, talks like a normal person.
He's doing movies.
You know, and then you have somebody like Playboi Carti instead who waits 3 years to put out a project. You know, he when he tweets, it's in this like hieroglyphics. It's like,
Right.
you know, it's just like, it's such a different way to manage your career.
Yeah, it's more like a Young Thug way to do it.
You know, like the extreme, but I mean, like with Young Thug, I mean, he's put out a lot of music over the years. Like, you know, Playboi Carti, like,
Well, I mean, like,
it's about scarcity. His whole career is about scarcity. He's only going to give you the little tiny bits. I feel if he were to give you the whole thing, a lot of people would realize, oh, it's just a guy. He's not that interesting. He's not doing anything that interesting in his music. But by only giving you the tiny little drip feed of content or him, he keeps people on the hook in a way that a lot of rappers kind of lose out on.
The only interaction I've had at all with a Playboi Carti was when we put out the Ruby Rose interview. Where, you know, the Ruby Rose interview, which was a play off of your interview.
Right.
Because when you interviewed her first, she had mentioned about him pulling out a gun during an argument.
Yeah. And shooting at her. Yeah. Which
you decided to just keep going with the conversation, but not me.
Yeah, you dug in on a little bit.
I dug in. You guys got into an argument and he pulled out his gun and...
Oh, I don't want to get into the... Do we have to let go that tea? It's not that... I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, he allegedly shot off his gun.
A gun did get... Yeah, but
gun went off.
That's what we do.
And you didn't get hit.
I did not. I'm here.
You're here. Okay. So we got the cease and desist from his lawyers.
Wow.
And we're like, y'all go fuck yourself for this.
Yeah.
Because if you guys are trying to claim defamation, you guys are tripping right now.
Yeah.
Because #1, the two of them were clearly in a relationship. There's drama between them. Remember at the airport, they got into like a fist fight at the airport and everything else like that. So you already have a track record of this type of thing. So if you guys think that you could get this taken down by trying to legally scare me, you're bugging right now.
Right.
So it's like, no, we're not taking shit down.
I said something about him shooting at her one time and Pierre showed up in my DMs like, why are you bringing that shit up? And I was like picturing in my head, like, that's pretty funny to picture like Carti like telling Pierre, like, DM him.
No, I remember some dude, like, I forgot, I don't even remember his name. It's some guy I met like 10 years ago. Was like, hey man, you know, I always fuck with you and you know, I always look out for you. You know, I just want you to take that video down. I'm like, look at this text message going like, I haven't talked to you 10 years. I don't know what you've ever actually done for, like, we've never even done anything together. So he sends these randoms at you to try to take shit down. I mean, listen, man, that's their history. If that happened to her, she's allowed to talk about it.
Right.
And you know, she's done her thing in her own right.
No, yeah, she's been killing it. Every time we have her on the podcast, people go crazy for her. I mean, she hasn't had like a huge hit necessarily. She's had some songs do pretty well, but I mean, I feel like Ruby could be very big if she gets the right song, you know?
Well, I think with Ruby I think she kind of got on with like her look and like maybe some of her affiliation and stuff like that. She just needs to work on her craft. Yeah. She needs to just become a better rapper.
Right.
And if she takes that part seriously, she has the opportunity to actually blow up. The songs I've heard were cool, but it wasn't like, oh, okay, this is like the next Nicki or the next Kamaya or the next someone who really, like, I look at as like dope female rappers.
I think she's pretty good though, like, to be honest. Like I like the tone of her voice. Like I just like her rap voice a lot, which I think goes a long way. And I think that she manages to sound natural on tracks to an extent, like, you know, in a way where a lot of female rappers, their flows sometimes feel a little rigid, a little forced. And I feel like she slides on tracks a lot better than a lot of girls. So I still, if there was a stock market for rappers, I'll throw some money on it.
You'd invest?
I would still throw some money on it, yeah.
Are you still cool with Lil Pump?
I haven't talked to him in actually almost exactly a year, because I was looking at some photos from right when we closed the store, and he had shown up like and hung out for the day about a year ago.
You know, he recently dissed Eminem.
Yeah.
He joined Trump on stage. When you saw that, like, I don't know him at all.
Yeah.
But you guys seem like you guys are pretty cool.
Yeah.
When you saw Lil Pump, who Trump called Lil Pimp originally,
Yeah.
wearing the MAGA hat on the big stage with all the MAGA followers and everything else like that, what'd you think?
This is a bad idea.
This will not end well.
Yeah. I mean, like, picture me, I forget if it was at night or if it was in the morning, but picture me just looking at my phone and just jaw drop, and the fact that he called him Lil Pimp, I mean, it was already crazy enough, but the fact that he called him Lil Pimp just blew my fucking brain into a million pieces. Yeah, I didn't think that was a great idea. I don't think long term it was a good career move.
Right, because he didn't even vote, period.
Right.
I mean, is Lil Pump still a hot rapper? Because at one point he was on fire.
Yeah.
Like, literally he was like the hottest thing smoking. Like, I remember seeing concert footage, like Rolling Loud, and he comes out and the crowd, like literally, what looked like 50,000 people just lost it.
I mean, remember when Kanye had to basically like take Pump's sauce to have a hit at one point?
You know, yeah, he has a song with Kanye. And it was actually a hot song. Now what?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't feel like he's necessarily huge right now. I wonder to what extent the people would be open to a comeback. It kind of feels like the Eminem thing, the Trump thing, to whatever extent people were going to be open to hearing him again, it kind of feels like a lot of that might have closed the door a little bit on people's willingness to fuck with him. Not artists necessarily, but the fans, you know?
Well, I mean, a lot of his fans have grown older, right? They're not 17 anymore.
Mm-hmm.
They're like 22, 23. They're in college now. They don't want to just do a bunch of drugs and, you know, just wild out.
And the problem is that he's kind of just like running through a lot of the same stuff that he already got popping off of. Like, you know, saying fuck Eminem right now is like almost exactly like saying fuck J. Cole at the time, back then, you know? It's like you pick a elite rapper who's beloved and you say fuck him, you know? It's like, that'll get you viral for a little bit, but where do you go from there? So yeah, I didn't love seeing that. It was kind of a bummer. I feel like, you know, to a certain extent, I think that there's people around him who are big Trump supporters.
Is that what it is?
Well, I know for a fact that there's at least a couple of people who are older that are associated with him on his team, whatever, who are very big MAGA people behind the scenes.
Really?
And I think that that's probably part of what led him to think that would go over better than it did.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you scribble all over your face, you run a wave, and you know what's really kind of weird is that what J. Cole said on that one song, which was essentially directed towards him, because remember the two of them even got together afterwards.
Right.
It's kind of coming true. Oh, you brokered that meeting?
Well, I was backstage at this festival with Pump, which, by the way, I got mad love for Pump. Like, I'm not sitting here doing some flavor of the month shit, acting like, oh yeah, Pump's washed or whatever. I still believe that Pump, has a career ahead of him and everything. I just don't know if he's necessarily been making the best moves to support said career with the Trump thing and the Eminem thing. But yeah, it was a weird moment where I'm backstage at this festival with Pump. I think I texted J. Cole and I'm like, yo, I'm with Pump right now. And he was like, can you put me on the phone with him or some shit? And I was like, all right, bet. And then I guess around that same moment, J. Cole got a random prank call. And so J. Cole's hitting me like, did you give him my number? And I'm like, no, absolutely not. Like, I have J. Cole's number. I've never given it to anybody ever. Like, why would I do that? Why would I give it to a person who would prank call him in particular?
Yeah.
So that set the scene sort of weird in that moment. Like, I'm like, is J. Cole really thinking I gave out his fucking number right now? And then I put him on the phone with Pump, and they talked for like 20 minutes or some shit.
Huh.
And then they did that podcast after the fact. So that was interesting. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, the whole thing with Pump is that, and let me throw another conspiracy theory out there, and I'll give credit to Academics because I heard him talking about this on stream. He basically said that when that whole thing happened where Pump signed to Warner, gets out of the contract because he's underage, signs to Warner again, gets another big ass bag. Academics said that he had heard that basically after that, Warner's attitude on him was, okay, now we own X percentage of your catalog, whatever, but we're never gonna fucking help you again because you did that, because you got two advances like that or whatever, like that was what Act
So
said.
he really finessed an extra advance from the same company? Why wouldn't he just go to a different company?
Exactly. Because all these labels are sort of in cahoots, right? So you'd think that if he were to sign with Warner and then just get out of the deal and then just go across the street and sign with somebody else, that the other label might not necessarily want to do that to Warner when they're all these CEOs are homies and shit, right? At the end of the day, they all know each other. They all know each other.
You can know each other, but at the end of the day, business is business.
But that's
all
the
these
number
CEOs,
one scenario they're trying to avoid right there, is that these artists actually having power over the labels and actually being able to exert that power to get more money out of them,
I don't know, man.
The conspiracy theory, I found it a little compelling.
I mean, I'm friends with, other media CEOs, but at the end of the day, we all got our businesses to run.
Right, but at this point, does it seem like the label's really doing anything for Pump?
Were they ever really doing anything for Pump? Or was Pump just doing it himself?
I think that at that time, with like when Gucci Gang was going crazy, they probably were doing a lot more for him than they're doing right now, whereas it feels like they gave him a bunch of money and then are pretty content to sort of just make money off of his catalog, and that they're not really concerned about him being a current artist, it would seem, from the label. But and that doesn't really make that much sense. Normally labels, if they spend $10 million to sign somebody, they're gonna do everything they can to build that person up and get as much as they can out of them. So that, I don't know.
Well, we mentioned Eminem. Eminem versus Snoop seems to be something that's kind of floating around in a certain type of way. Crooked Eye said the Snoop and Eminem feud will divide the culture.
No.
I disagree as well.
I love Crook.
I think Crooked Eye has put a little too much on it.
I don't think anyone gives a fuck. I think everybody's acting like this is like your two uncles getting in a fight at the barbecue, and it's just like, me personally, I've noticed myself like going out of my way to not pay attention to it because I don't want to see two rappers I was listening to in high school going at it. It's just not appealing to me.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be a hell of a battle. I would love to see that. You'd have the super lyrical, putting 100 words in a verse.
Yeah.
And then you got Snoop, who's just kind of like the coolest rapper, the rapper with the most, style, you would say. Like when you hear Snoop, it's Snoop in the first millisecond.
Sometimes I wonder if young kids can understand that Snoop Dogg to me in '92 was like Playboy Cardi to them right now. Like the coolest motherfucker on earth.
Yeah.
Like skinny as fuck, tall as fuck, the big ass blue flannel shirts and shit, just like saying all this Crip shit I didn't understand. I was loving it. Like, he was the coolest shit in the world to me in the early 90s.
Man, but listen, I'm here for that battle. I hope it happens. Me personally, it ain't gonna divide shit, man. I mean, and I know Crooked. I've known him for a while. I respect him a lot. He's very much of a hip hop connoisseur, and he knows both of these guys. He's got connections to both of them. So I think he doesn't want to see it, but I think people really overestimate. Well, not overestimate. I think people underestimate just how big hip hop is. You can't really blacklist, cancel, or whoever, whatever to someone as long as they keep putting out stuff to their fan base. It doesn't really, it's not like, like for example, when T.I. and Lil Flip went at it, T.I. got the better in that battle. And it sort of set this whole stigma where, he's telling people not to fuck with Lil Flip. And then, like the label, ended up, not fucking with him eventually. And people kind of stopped listening to Lil Flip as much. And I felt like Lil Flip was dope. To me, it was sort of disappointing because I remember Lil Flip's last major label album I thought was a very dope album. But like, T.I., I think, exerted that pressure on the hip hop community. And since there was no internet back then to this extent. There was no social media. There's no way of actually pushing your product independently like that to this extent, that once you lost that major label push and that marketing push and the radio and everything else like that, it's kind of hard to keep that momentum going, even though Flip was a huge artist at one point. 2020, man, that shit ain't happening.
Can you imagine anything that would affect Snoop or M's legacy or public image? Like anything that they could say about each other that would I don't think so. I think that they're both way too solidified. I mean, think about the shit that has been slung at Eminem, how hardcore the effort to paint him as a racist were at one point. It's like that shit. People forget about that shit.
Yeah, I mean the whole thing about dissing black women.
Nick Cannon had multiple diss songs about him like a year and a half ago. And everybody's forgot about it because he's Eminem. It's like, nobody's really eager to hear people shitting on him, and it's even if people are open to it for a time being, it's Eminem, so it's not going to really last.
He's got a fan base that's going to last for as long as his fans are alive. Yeah. He's got a big catalog as well as Snoop. Like you're not, as well as No Jumper, as well as VladTV. Like you're not canceling these platforms who have millions of fans who continue to put out quality product. People were screaming to cancel, the VladTV's over, VladTV's canceled. Everyone watched the Mike Tyson interview though. Everyone's watching the Young Buck interview. Right? The numbers are the numbers. Like you're not canceling shit. You're not stopping shit as long as you keep working. Now, at the point that you stop, you canceled yourself. Or maybe you go to prison. Like an R. Kelly got canceled because he's sitting in a jail cell for 2 years. But other than that, you're not canceling anything. Like cancel culture overestimates itself. I'll put it like that.
No, yeah, definitely. I mean, we've seen people get canceled, or it's easy to get canceled.
Who got canceled?
Okay, but everybody I can think of who gets canceled effectively, it is not somebody who has millions of diehard followers. I've seen journalists, I've seen, bloggers get basically the fuck out of here.
Who?
I don't even want to say him by name, but there was that dude, oh no, I can't even just name some random ass person. It's just, you see people who are workers who get basically canceled publicly, and then they, aren't able to get a job in the corporate world or whatever. Because that's a portion of being canceled, is that you can get canceled to the point where you can't be fucked with on a corporate level. We see that.
There's that.
Famous Dex could have had a fucking huge career. After he beat that girl up, he wasn't going to have a kind of huge career that would involve him getting on a magazine cover or the freshman cover in particular. He beats the girl up and that closes a bunch of doors for him. But at the same time, NBA YoungBoy threw a fucking girl on the ground in the hallway, and they have video footage of that. NBA YoungBoy is huge. His career's continued on, but NBA YoungBoy is not going to get a fucking I don't know. He's not going to get a Target ad, you know?
No. I mean, remember Lil Reese beat up that girl
Right.
early on. And people have probably forgotten about it, but he's also never gotten any sort of mainstream.
They said the label like froze his whole music career when that happened, more or less.
Oh, yeah?
That's what I heard from a lot of people, yeah.
Well, the power of being independent. When you're independent and they can't fire you, not a whole lot you could do. Yeah, you could probably get your friends not to fuck with you, you know, but outside of that, you know, what was it, Chris D'Elia?
D'Elia, yeah.
D'Elia. I mean, he got dropped from a
lot of movies.
And shows and stuff like that. And he's going to have to rebuild. But I think a lot of it just comes down to the mental fortitude of the person.
Yeah.
Right? Like, for example, you know, Kramer, right? Yeah. What's his real name?
Michael Richards.
Michael Richards. I learned about TMZ for the first time when that video came out of him using the N-word, and, you know, and some hecklers and stuff like that.
He's the number one dude that couldn't afford to do some shit like that because he's not like independently popular. You know, he was popular because he played an amazing character on TV. As soon as people start to realize, like, oh, you were incredibly funny playing this character on TV in the 90s, but now you're actually like some dickhead who screamed the N-word at a guy on stage. I mean, you create that dissonance, that's about as bad as it gets.
Right. But let me just point something else out. Look at Justin Bieber. Remember that video that came out?
Yeah.
Remember how racist that fucking video was?
That was a different era, though, don't you think? Don't you think if that came out right now, it would be different? Well, I mean, granted, he was
It wasn't that long ago. It was not that.
Like 10 years ago?
Was it 10 years ago?
It was like pre-Me Too. Not that Me Too is racially concerned necessarily, but I mean, it's that, I think it was a long time ago.
Let's look it up. 2014. 7 years ago.
Wasn't that long ago. You're
Not that long ago. Not that the internet, social media was in full swing at that point. That video went everywhere.
That's true. But
now
even,
look,
I've watched rap people talk about that video on their podcasts and stuff within the last year, acting like they didn't know about it and
I remember
mad about it.
Yeah, when I interviewed Talib Kweli, he'd never even heard of it.
That's what I was thinking of.
That's what you're talking about? Yeah. He was like, what video? And I'm like, let me play it for you. And he was like, his jaw dropped. He was like, yo, I've been around this guy. Like, I never knew that this is what he did.
Justin Bieber, you threw me off with that one.
You don't remember that video, the surface of Justin Bieber, One Less Lonely N-word?
I'd never seen that.
You've never seen that?
No, I don't know about this.
Do you want to see it?
Sure, why not?
Sure, why not?
Let's check out the Biebs being racist.
One less lonely.
What the fuck is that from? What? Why was he doing that?
One less lonely.
Oh, he thought it was hilarious.
One less. If I tell you, I'll be part of the KKK, then there'll be one less lonely.
How old was he?
There'll be one less lonely.
How old was he?
Oh, this was around 2014.
No, how old was he?
How old was he? Let's do the math.
Fucking Justin Bieber. That is disgusting, Justin Bieber. You should be ashamed of yourself.
But look, Chance the Rapper.
Huge song with him.
Got a huge song with him, saying that this album is like the next Thriller.
Yeah.
Quavo, like who does Justin Bieber not have a song with who's a poppin' rapper? Like, you see what I'm saying? Everyone is lined up to still do music with him. Why? Because he kept working. He's talented. He kept working. He put that behind him. He took responsibility for it. He kept it moving, and he kept putting shit out. And that's gonna be part of his legacy. It's gonna be part of his story.
I mean, if you go very much out of your way to prove that you're a good person and that's not who you are, I mean, I feel like people in general would be willing to tolerate you having said some dumb shit when you were younger. Post Malone had a video like this as well, right?
Yeah, he used the N-word like very briefly.
Very early in his career. I feel like if you were to take the most offended person and explain to him, like, hey, this guy, he's been on his best behavior for 10 years, but, he said the N-word on Vine 10 years ago. I feel like most people would probably be willing to accept that when you were a total nobody, you could have done something stupid?
I think more so than that is a hit song will fix everything.
Oh, yeah.
A hit movie, a hit TV show, a hit whatever. Look at Chris Brown. Chris Brown beat up, one of the biggest female artists of all time. And the picture came out. It looked crazy.
Yeah.
This wasn't just like we were arguing and I tried to push her and accidentally punched her in the jaw and walked out. Like he literally beat on her until both of her eyes were closed.
But it's hard to imagine his career continuing the same way that it did these days, Because if that happened right now, he'd be Tory Lanez. And Tory Lanez got blacklisted from streaming services.
Yeah, but he's still doing his thing.
Tory Lanez is still doing his thing, but Chris Brown has a level of industry support that is different. Whereas Tory...
Years later. This is true. And plus with the Tory thing, the whole thing is a little up in the air, right? Because now he's being charged, which is very serious. But then again, he's also denying the whole thing. Chris never denied that he did anything.
Yeah.
You can't. Like what? She punched herself in the face 20 times? Like,
yeah.
Like Tory is saying that's not what happened. This whole thing is a lie. She's lying, whatever. Now, he could be lying, of course, about this whole thing. I'm not saying that he is or he isn't. He may be. But he's still putting out product and he's still getting views on his shit and he's still going to do his thing. Now, unless he goes to prison, which is a definite possibility considering the situation. Now, that's obviously going to stop him unless they start releasing music while he's locked up. But at some point, if he comes out with a hot-ass song, people will be like, all right, fuck it. I like this song. I think, who said it best? I think 50 Cent said, and this is a little old school, but when KRS-One dropped The Bridge Is Over, which dissed all of Queens, 50 said that they were bumping that song in Queens, even though they were dissing. He was dissing their neighborhood because it was such a hot song.
They had a lot less music at that time.
But still, people have pride in who they are and where they came from. Like, it was just such a hot song that they were bumping it in Queens.
Yeah, no, I can see that for sure. I don't know if I ever have been able to really get into a song that was dissing somebody I was cool with. I mean, I'm cool with Go Yayo and that fucking, you ever hear that Sauce Walka song about him?
No.
Gayo?
No.
Oh my God. He turns the beat off and freestyles for goes off, not freestyles, but he goes off for 2 minutes. It's like, I'm listening to it I fuck with Go Yayo, but man, this song is vicious.
And to everyone that's been asking me to interview Sauce Walka, there was at least 3 occasions, maybe even 4, that we had an interview scheduled with him, and he either didn't show up or showed up so late that everyone had already gone home.
If he showed up late for you, then you're doing one better than me because he's just not showing up. We've had it booked and then canceled. I never was waiting around for it, but I've had it booked and then canceled. And I always tell him, I'm like, Sauce, just come out here and do the interview because it's going to be a fucking movie. People love you and they never get to see you do some real fire official interviews,
Yeah, no. Our last interview, we probably would have done it, but he showed up so late that we had another interview that was already about to start. It was just impossible for us to do it. And I was like, yo, bro, we want to fuck with you. like Sauce, you do a VladTV or a No Jumper, it's gonna be massive. It's going to be the biggest thing ever because you never do interviews. Please get your business together. Cause you could be huge right now.
Yeah.
Now he probably thinks he is huge, but you could be huger.
I need to just pull up on him. I'm just going to go to Texas.
Just pull up.
I'm just going to Texas, be like, Sauce.
Where you at? I'm there with my iPhone.
I got a pint of lean and a bag of weed. Let's hang out. Let's talk on camera. Not a pint of lean. I can't give him that. I'm going to hold that. But,
some weed.
Something like that. I'll sell it to him, maybe.
Kim and Kanye are allegedly getting divorced.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I mean...
True or false?
Oh, yeah, I believe it, for sure.
You believe it?
She's been out without the wedding ring on and shit. So she's kind of confirming it for the people. Yeah, I have no idea why it took this long. It's just mind-blowing that, you say what you will about Kim, the mental abuse that it appears that she has taken throughout these years being with him is just, I can't believe it lasted this long.
I can't imagine, you know, when you look at the wild shit that he says publicly, knowing that the cameras are running, you know, from
yeah,
you know, from canceling his entire tour on stage, canceling his entire tour on stage, to the slavery is a choice, to the
Trump stuff,
to all the Trump stuff,
the stuff he was saying about her mom and her and Meek Mill and how, I mean,
yo,
how'd they make it past? Like, how did it even last this long?
Like to have to. And I know people around him, so I really want to kind of tread very lightly around this, but
I don't care. So that's cool.
Some of the stuff that's said in personal life, like, you know, like he'll wake up one morning and, you know, thinks he's an elf, you know, or something crazy like that, you know, and really believes it, and you have to humor him while he works through whatever he works through.
Wow.
Must just be crazy. I mean, it is a little disheartening because they have 4 kids together.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Like you know, and this is what happens sometimes, where it's just like, you know, like you're a fan of someone's image. You're you know, she was a fan of Kanye the musician. He was a fan of Kim Kardashian, the reality star.
I remember reading about why he wanted to be with her, and he was like sort of making it clear that he considered her like the number one woman, the number one hottest, most perfect woman, which, you know, in a lot of objective ways, as in terms of American celebrities, yeah, you could say that. And it felt like, you know, I don't want to say too much about like their relationship without knowing, but it felt like that was the thing that he was really in love with her, was the idea of having the ultimate woman. After, you know, he was with Amber Rose before that, and like you've seen it come up in his interviews that it felt like the fact that she was a stripper and stuff really bothered him. Like and even you've seen in his tweets that the fact that she had a sex tape with Ray J seems like it really bothers him. Like that's you would think that after being with a girl for 10 years or however long, that kind of thing would just sort of fade away in your brain. I mean, that one Twitter ram they went on and kind of made that clear, like, oh, that shit is still in the front of his fucking brain, and that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, allegedly he's just living in Wyoming full time, and
Fucking
she's living in, yeah.
I don't believe that for a record, but
you don't think so?
Yeah, I mean, I love the idea of it. Like, if that were true, it would be unbelievable theater. But
if Kanye came out and said, "Listen, I realized that I'm gay, and I had the ultimate woman. Now I got the ultimate transgender." Who Jeffree Star is, right? When it comes to the transgender world, I mean, listen, I don't follow very closely. Let me put that out there. But in terms of popular transgenders, I mean, really, it's Jeffree Star, right? I mean, you got Laverne Cox, I guess.
If Kanye announced that he was gay, I wouldn't be all that surprised. But I don't really like think he is, but I also don't think he's into women in a super traditional way that we look at a lot of rappers as being into women. Like, I feel like there's something more interesting going on with his what he's into with that. But I mean, one thing, when the whole Jeffree Star thing came out, one thing I immediately started thinking about, and I regret not asking her about this on the podcast, was Amber Rose had all those tweets about putting her fingers in his booty, right?
Is that gay though?
No, but it's a gateway drug. I mean, you know, like that just made me think, like, damn, like
that's a gateway.
He likes a whole bunch of fingers in his booty or some shit. I mean, maybe that could have led him in the direction of Jeffree Star. He's right down the street.
Yeah, I guess so.
I wish I had asked Amber that though. Like, I should honestly probably FaceTime her and just be like, yo, what was that about?
Were you a fan of MF Doom?
I was, yeah. That was a bummer, man. Like, really going back and listening to his catalog, it is fucking crazy just how inventive he was. Like, even in the early 2000s, you know, he really had such like a different outlook on like what was worth rapping about, and just that sort of like fun element of rapping, of just finding crazy shit that rhymed together, or hilarious ideas. You know, it's just like, I got into him from some like BMX videos back in the day, and just really, I don't know. I never seen anybody who's been able to maintain a persona like that in hip hop, like to such an extent.
Yeah, I mean, after he died, see, I was never into MF Doom, I'll be honest, but I was into KMD. I had realized that I used to own that first KMD album, you know, and he used to be known as Zev Love X.
Right.
And, you know, it's probably a little before your time, but.
No, but I seen the video of him performing with them on some show way back in the day. That was crazy to just be like, damn, like I never even knew that he ever performed without the mask.
Yeah, no, I mean, he got brought out by Third Base.
Right.
In fact, he was on the song The Gas Face, which was one of their biggest songs. And I've interviewed Search, and me and Pete Nice actually
Search just hit me up, actually, which was crazy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yes, Search is dope. But they brought him out. And there's a very interesting story around it. Did you know the whole story of KMD and why he kind of became MF Doom and everything?
No.
So KMD came out as a group. They had this first album, I think it was called Mr. Hood. It was a cool album, nothing huge. There was a single called Peach Fuzz, which got a little bit of play, but nothing really huge. And then it was time for them to come out with their second album. And I believe it was called Black Bastards. They were on a major label at the time. And the artwork was a drawing of a Sambo character being hung by a noose, right? And the label was just like, nah, we're not touching this. And I guess they even offered to change the cover, and the label's like, nah, we're not touching this. You guys are getting dropped. And then right around that time, one of the other guys in the group ends up getting killed playing bullfighter in the street with cars. Something really like just crazy, like playing Toro, like, you know.
See, that's why we need the internet. People aren't doing shit like that now, you know? Like, if you could just sit on TikTok, then you won't feel the need to be, you know, playing stickball in the street, which inevitably leads to you playing bullfighter with cars.
Yeah, he got hit by a car and died.
Wow.
And then, you know, Zev Love X, you know, who later became MF Doom, he was like homeless. Heard he had really bad alcohol problems and stuff like that. And he kind of came back and reinvented himself as MF Doom, kind of basing himself on Dr. Doom. You know, he kind of felt like the industry abandoned him and left him to die, and he's going to come back to get revenge like Dr. Doom. And that's when he developed that whole thing with the mask and everything else like that. And just a very enigmatic figure that I don't even think he was photographed without the mask.
No.
After that, ever.
I read stories from people talking about being around him without the mask, but publicly always would have it on him. And I was reading, because he has a 2-hour interview, like a Red Bull interview.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw parts of that. Yeah.
I didn't watch it yet. I'm about to watch it the other day because I've never seen an interview with him all these years, which is pretty rare. Like to have a rapper you listen to that much that you never heard them speak or whatever. Like for me on a personal level, but yeah, that's.
Yeah, I mean, from what I understand, because I think there were some rumors about him committing suicide. I heard that's actually false.
Oh, okay.
Because he was only like 59 years old or
damn, he was 59.
Something like that. Let me double check.
Damn, you could stay young forever when you got a mask.
I know, right?
The irony is
40. No, my bad. He was 49 years old. Okay. Even worse.
That's what I thought.
Even younger. Like he was only 49 years old. From what I understand, he had serious drinking problems.
Well, he talked about beer a lot on all his shit. That's interesting.
Yeah, I think he may have actually had kidney failure and dialysis and stuff like that, and he wasn't really taking care of himself and so forth. And I think that ultimately his poor health just caught up with him.
What a shame. That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, listen, underground legend, MF Doom. Rest in peace. Like I said, I went back and listened to some of his catalog. Not really my thing. But you know, listen, he made his mark.
For me, MF Doom is a weird one because it's great background type music to just be listening to, but when I actually listen to it and actually pay attention to his bars and actually think about every bar, it's just like, that just reminds me of why I have had a soft spot for him always, because he's just like, I like people who put words together in bizarre combinations and just find ways to, like, you know, say something funny off the wall that just doesn't really, they rhyme some shit together you would never think would be rhymed. And that's always like, he was just the king of that to me.
You know, we were talking about the whole transgender thing, you know, with Jeffree Star. We just interviewed Young Buck. And as soon as we put the interview up, like, transgender question. I bet you're not gonna ask him transgender question.
I texted you about it.
Yeah, you asked. You're like, did you ask the transgender question?
You
I said, of course I did. Fuck out of here. This is VladTV. We're gonna ask the transgender question. Because my whole thing is that unless I'm specifically told ahead of time not to ask something, I am going to ask that.
I feel it.
And there's really an art form in interviewing of you could ask anything as long as you ask it a certain type of way and as long as you ease into the question and so forth. Mm-hmm. And I think what was dope about this question, when we talked about it, the clip just went up the other day, is that he actually had a very good explanation for the whole thing. Mm-hmm. A video came out with a transgender and people were saying that it was you.
And it's crazy because when this shit first happened, man, just to be as honest with you, it fucked me up like it would fuck anybody up. You understand what I'm saying? And for me, it was one of them situations where I reacted not even seeing the video first because I know where I stand at. Like I say, I ain't got a problem with them people. That wasn't me. But when I seen the fucking video, I said, damn, that is me in that fucking video. But it wasn't me knowingly going into a situation, knowing that this is what the fuck it was.
Did you watch it?
I did, and it was a bummer to me because I had been talking about it like 2-3 days before that clip came out. I was talking with one of my friends, and he's like, man, is Vlad ever gonna ask Buck about the fucking trans shit? And I was like, yeah, he told me he does by the end of it. And I said, I'm pretty sure that that's all cap. I'm pretty sure that that's like 50 putting together a narrative about Buck, and I'm pretty sure that there's not truth to it. And his response was, yeah, man, but did you see the video of the fucking transgender person talking about fucking Buck and all this, rah, rah, rah? And I'm like, yeah, I remember seeing it, but I'm like, think about it. Like right now, you're giving that clip full weight. Like you're acting like that clip was really a depiction of reality. I'm telling you, I'm pretty sure it's not true. But I interviewed Buck and it was over FaceTime. So like I probably would have got to the point of asking him about it, but I didn't really want to like dig into all that shit because we were doing like a Zoom interview or whatever. But I mean, that says a lot about how people consume information, that like there could be this one moment that somebody with a super loud voice like 50 was able to magnify crazy. And then meanwhile, Buck, who has more modest social media, and he's probably denied it the same way he did on the Vlad thing. He's probably done that a whole bunch of times on his social media and shit. And people just, like when somebody like 50 really goes hard trying to paint a person as being something, it can be really, really hard to like write the disinformation, Well,
look, what he described was this. We'll go ahead and play the clip. But he said, look, there was a girl that was in his DMs. She was showing, sending him pictures of her pussy and everything else like that. And she looked hella good. And, he was kind of getting worked up. And then she said, I'm in your city. Come, but I'm on my period. So I can only give you head right now. So he's like, all right, let me go get some head. He said when he walked in the room, he realized this was not the same person.
It was one of those things where, I was catfished out of some shit. You understand what I'm saying? Pretty much, where a person was in these DMs and sending pussy squirting all over the room and pop up and say, hey, I'm in your city. And me at the time thinking with my dick, I smash over there thinking I'm finna smash on this bitch and walk in the situation. It wasn't even me knowing what the person was at the time. It was me feeling like, hold on, this is a fucking robbery, a setup, because when I realized, hold on, that ain't the same motherfucker that's been on this video, I immediately got the fuck out of the room, okay? So from there, that's when I guess the motherfucker it's clearly a situation where they were using it to try to set me up for whatever reasons or whatever they was trying to do, because when I seen this shit, I could see the way the camera angles and shit was set up.
And for anyone who has dated on the internet, you have gotten catfished at some point to some certain degree. Point blank period. Now, I've never gotten catfished by a man, but I remember clearly, during my internet dating days, I met up with this one girl who had a picture of just her face from the neck up, and that's it. Looked very cute in the face, looked like maybe she was a little bit thick, and I remember having talked to her. I said, I remember I asked her, I said, how much do you weigh? She goes, you can't ask a woman how much she weighs.
You asked her in advance? That's hard.
Because
I
didn't have because I'm like, I'm not gonna waste my time. Like if I'm not into really big girls, so like let me just. She's like, oh no, I'm thick. I'm not fat. Definitely not fat. I'm thick. I said, okay, cool. I like thick. Showed up. She was 300 pounds.
Yeah. No, I've done 300 plus for sure on social media apps back in the day.
Yeah.
I was going morbid for sure.
You see what I'm saying? She was 300 pounds. Yeah. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Listen, BBW is a whole thing that people are into. I had friends that were into really big girls. Like, more power to you if that's your thing. Big is beautiful. Cool. Like, for all the big girls that watch VladTV, like, I love you as well.
Right, yeah.
I'm just not into that. So I got catfished by a girl who's lying to me on the phone, telling me that she's something that she's not.
I just did it anyway, though, for the record.
Oh, you smashed?
Oh, yeah.
Many
times.
No.
My girl,
I didn't
one time, me and my girl were driving down the street, and I pointed at this bar, and I was like, I took a girl on a Tinder date there one time, and she was like, oh, yeah? How was that? And I was like, she was so fat. And my girl's like, so what'd you do? I'm like, I drank like 10 beers and I fucked her. And she's like, ugh, she's just disgusted me. What the fuck is wrong with you? I was like,
I didn't fuck.
I was like, man, that was how I was living. Like, I would not turn it down.
You would not turn it down? I would turn it down.
I would turn it down now.
What I did, I remember that night, it was in LA. I don't remember, it was somewhere off of Sunset Boulevard. I remember we met up, we had a drink together. I was very polite. After the drink, I said, hey, listen, I gotta go. It was a pleasure meeting you. And she said, oh, do you wanna? Like, nah, unfortunately, I got another thing I gotta go to. But thank you, have a good night. I'm not gonna diss her, even though she's wasting my time right now by lying to me. But so my whole thing is like I said in the very beginning, anyone who's dated on the internet, who's met people online, whether it's social media, Tinder, Craigslist, Match.com, whatever the hell service you use, you have gotten fooled by someone. Pictures, filters, whatever. You've gotten fooled. So when Buck told me that story, he's like, yeah, I got up out of there.
Yeah.
I didn't get no head.
I believe him 100%, yeah.
And the video doesn't show him engaging in any sexual activity with her. He got up out of there and he bounced. And then it turned into a whole thing. And I guess he tried to call her to get the video, the footage taken down. And, this is the unfortunate part about social media is that back in the day, if you had a problem with someone, you could either meet up with them or get them on the phone and you guys could work it out, right? And then it will end one day at that point. Or if it doesn't, at least there's some level of understanding between the two people. These days, you get on the phone and work it out with someone and they'll record it.
Yeah.
Or they'll take your words and make a video out of it. Oh yeah, Vlad said rah, 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 rah. And it's like, okay, now I can't even fucking talk to you. Like, we can't work it out anymore because of how you handle your fucking business.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, yeah, you try to work shit out with someone, they record it and put it out, and it just becomes more and more content. And it's the unfortunate part of where we are and how we're living right now, where you can't even talk to people anymore.
It's real.
Did you interview Jake Paul or
both?
You interview both the brothers. Okay. Number one, what'd you think of the Jake Paul Nate Robinson fight?
I mean, I think that Jake Paul, because I've been paying attention to Jake Paul as a YouTuber since he was maybe like 16, 17, 18, because he popped off hella young. And, a lot of people don't seem like they understand what the appeal of Jake Paul was early on. And it's like, he very much like sort of epitomized what it was to be like a young, crazy white boy on YouTube doing pranks and all this silly shit. Like he very much like appealed to this sort of young audience who wanted to see that shit at a certain point, And I think like at one point he really leaned into it where, he was jumping up and down on that news truck outside his house. And there was all these viral clips coming out of all these crazy parties at his house and stuff. And I think after a while he started to realize like, oh, people don't want to see me just be this obnoxious young YouTuber forever. And I think he started taking the boxing thing really, really serious, which is, you know, credit to him that he realized like maybe people aren't gonna love watching me make YouTube videos forever, but if I take this boxing shit seriously, I can have some value to bring to the table that is gonna be like outside of, you know, my personality in terms of bringing worth to the situation. And I mean, he's become a fucking badass, to be honest. Like he's fucking people up. Obviously, I don't think that he should fight Conor McGregor if he wants to keep his teeth and, you know, his brain cell count. But I mean, I also think there's like a playbook that him and Logan are kind of going with, where it's like you call out the biggest fighters in the world and then you end up somewhere along the spectrum, except that Logan, somehow this has worked and he actually has a fight with Floyd Mayweather, which is, it's insane. But
it's insane. And
the amount of attention it's going to bring him, I think, is maybe worth it in the long run.
Man, look, I remember because, you know, we did the interview with Mike Tyson. I was hanging out with Zab Judah, you know, at Tyson's gym. You know, we had to redo some stuff after his interview with Mike. And he was like, yo, I'm in Logan Paul's training camp and he's going to fight Mike, you know, he's going to fight Floyd Mayweather. And I'm like, there's no possible way these two are gonna fight. They're not even the same weight class. This guy's 50-0, he's got a legacy, he's not gonna lower himself to something like that. It's not enough money. But I was like, no, I'm telling you. I remember getting a phone call from Zab saying, told you so, told you. As soon as that got announced, he called me to gloat. And I'm like, well, what can I say? You're absolutely right.
Right.
I did not see it coming. I still don't think it's gonna happen. I think it's stupid. But I don't know why. I 100% get why Logan would do it. 100%. I have no idea why Floyd is doing it.
He's making, I think, like 95% of the total money that they're making from it. Like there were some leaked screenshots that came out of what the deal might have been. And I believe it is like Logan's getting like 5% of the potential profits, and that Floyd's like by far dominating it. And I think like with Floyd, you've always kind of seen him as somebody who cared more about the business side of things and maintaining his brand than, you know, just being the ultimate boxer who takes on all challengers without concern. You know, it's like Floyd has always kind of been this very business savvy guy. I think he sees this as what it is, where it's, he can probably have maybe the biggest or one of the biggest fights of his career, the biggest or one of the biggest paydays he's ever had, and the smallest challenge that he's ever faced. I mean, at the end of the day, if you could make 20 million or whatever off of just beating up somebody who's a fucking bowling pin to you, I get it.
Well, you know, I see where you're coming from, but the only sort of wild card in this equation is that Logan is quite a bit heavier than he is.
Right.
Right? Now, granted, the skill level is not even remotely close. He probably won't land a punch. Floyd is going to tag him up the whole time. I get it. But when it comes to boxing, you saw
size
this.
matters a lot. Weight matters.
Weight matters a lot.
It's true.
You saw, like, for example, with the Jake Paul, Nate Robinson fight, I was like, yo, Nate's going to win. He's way more muscular. He's a professional athlete. And, you know, he just looks like he's tougher, you know, for in whatever regard that is.
But then you see him side by side and you're like, ooh. Okay.
Well, and you see him go to sleep.
Yeah.
You know?
But I mean, he was fighting like a chicken with his head cut off. Like he
didn't know how to fight. He didn't know how to box.
Himself.
He didn't know how to box. It was ridiculous.
I felt like if I trained for a boxing match for 3 months, that I would be able to do a much better job defending myself than he did in that moment. I don't know if it was just the heat of the moment, but I'm watching that like, bro. And it was funny too, because like, I mean, obviously, you know, Black Twitter is undefeated. Like their reaction to that was just one of the funniest moments on the internet. And it's like, that's a reminder, because okay, if Jake Paul had gotten knocked out, you would not have white people collectively feeling let down. when Nate got knocked out, you had a shitload of black people who felt like you let us down. Like you were supposed to beat this fucker up for us, and you got humiliated like that. Like, and to see all that energy converted into memes and shit was
oh yeah,
brilliant.
no, I remember the funniest meme I saw was that it was basically a screenshot of Tyson and Roy Jones fighting, and Nate's still lying there in the ring, like they never even. He's still asleep when the next match started.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, Nate, you need to come on VladTV, man. Let's talk about it. You know, we know we have a lot of people in common.
I'd like to know what the last few months of his life have been like after that.
I mean, honestly, I think him being quiet is probably just kind of hurting him. He should just come in and just accept. Look, it's not like he got beat up in a street fight. He got knocked out in a boxing match.
Yeah.
By a better boxer.
Yeah.
Right?
All that shit fades away.
It happens.
Yeah.
Damn near everyone. Zab Judah got knocked out. Mike Tyson got knocked out.
I've been knocked out.
Yeah. I've been knocked out. Yeah. I've been knocked out. Let me keep it 100. I've been knocked out.
Yeah.
It happens. It's life. You know, man up and say, yeah, that's what happened. Fuck it.
Yeah.
I'm either going to come back tougher next time or, hey, listen, I realize this ain't my thing. I'm a basketball player. I'm a 5'9" guy who's won the dunk contest 3 times. How's that? You're not taking that part away from me.
I did this jiu-jitsu tournament when I was probably about 10 years ago. I worked so hard to get ready for it. And then finally I get there and I fucking, you know, and I was doing everything. I was eating so good. I'm working out. I'm training jiu-jitsu. And I get there in my first match. I'm up against this dude. And I take one look at him and I'm like, oh my God. This guy, you know, he's like shorter than me, but like very stocky and strong. And he tapped my ass out in like a minute or two. And before that, I'd been kind of worried, like, this is going to be embarrassing. If I lose, you know, it's going to suck. And then actually I lost. And it was like, somebody better than me beat me. Like, why the fuck would I be embarrassed of that, you know? It's different when you get knocked out. You know, I had to tap my arm and that was it. But, you know, it's like, at the end of the day, these are all sporting events. And, you know, no matter how much pride you have tied up in yourself, if somebody better than you beats you, why not? You can go. If I was in a big boxing match and I got beat up, I'm gonna go on camera and I'm gonna say, yeah, you know, I thought I had it and I didn't have it and I'm embarrassed, but it is what it is.
I mean, shit. Larry Holmes lost to Tyson. We talked about it. Buster Douglas lost to Holyfield. We talked about it. This is what happens in the boxing world. You know, Tyson lost other matches. You know, after Buster Douglas, he lost to Holyfield twice. Like, shit happens. You get in the ring, it happens. You don't win. You either keep going, you don't, or you don't. You know, like I remember one of the things that Tyson said that was kind of interesting because you know I jumped in and did a couple of questions with him, and we were talking about Buster losing to Holyfield, and he was just really out of shape. I don't know. Do you remember that whole fight or? Before your time? Yeah, I mean, basically, Buster beat Mike Tyson, which was considered the biggest upset in sports history.
Okay, yeah.
But then when it came time for him to defend his title and he fought Holyfield, he was just really out of shape. And he came in, got knocked down, and then just kind of didn't get back up.
Right.
Even though he seemed like he could have. And Tyson was like, look, and he was like, let me choose my words carefully. He's like, not everyone has the same type of bloodline. You know, when it comes to this type of thing where, you know, when you're on the big stage and you're doing it at championship level, you give it your all. You come in and you train and whatever. You don't just come in and just collect a check, you know, which is kind of what he was inferring that Buster was doing.
Some guys got different kind of characters and bloodlines. Some guys think this stuff is not worth nothing, but money ain't worth dying. And then some people think this boxing stuff is worth dying for. You know? And when you come in to fight for the championship and you come look decently prepared. You don't come like you look like you want to lose. And at that particular night, Buster came like he looked like he wanted. It didn't look like he trained one day. Did it look like he trained one day?
At the end of the day, everyone has their own thing. I mean, Buster got a huge payday for that and retired for a bunch of years and was able to just live off of that. You know, Nate, you know, come in and just talk about the shit. It's cool, man.
I think I almost was on the undercard for maybe like the Logan Paul versus KSI fight because I got an email.
You were going to fight?
Well, I got an email basically offering me to fight some fucking soccer player and they wouldn't give me that much information, but based on the timing, I felt like they were asking me to fight on the undercard of the Logan Paul KSI thing.
Huh.
And it was this soccer dude, but I'm reading it and it's like, he's 185. I'm 235 right now. They're like, oh, can you meet at 200? I'm like, I'm reading the email like we're going back and forth and I'm like, so you want me to lose 35 pounds and learn how to box in like 2 months? Even if it was just the weight loss, that's almost impossible. Or it probably is impossible, realistically. I don't think almost anybody could do that, or at least you wouldn't be like.
Because you're what, 6'3"?
I'm 6'3". Yeah, you wouldn't be able to like do a professional sporting event after you had just lost that much. It was just a ridiculous idea, but like, and then the money was like.
How much are they
They're
offering?
trying to offer like 50 grand or some shit. I'm like, I'm trying to like do the math in my head. I'm like, 50 grand, 3 months? That's not really much for what you're asking me to do. Like, but that would have been crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, before I let you go, I want to thank you for posting up the ARAB interview, which, you know, earlier last year, there was like a fake meme that was going around where...
On Smash, they gotta get their shit together, man.
Yeah.
Fake news.
Yeah. On Smash was one of the ones that were pushing it. It didn't come, well, let me just, to be fair, it didn't come from them. It came from some hip hop site I'd never even heard of.
But that's a good sign. Like whenever I see a title or a caption on, like I just saw the Joe Biden V-Loan collab coming out. And it took me like 2 seconds to be like, wait a minute. Why is this on some Twitter account with 5,000 followers? And
right.
You know, it's like, you really, really need to be concerned with your sources. If you see something that seems too good to be true, your first thought should be, I'm gonna check Complex. I'm gonna check Vlad. I'm gonna check No John. I'm gonna check a few other sources because if this is true, I would assume that all the big players are gonna be all over it.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a fake meme going around which had a picture of ARAB and some white judge. And it's like, Judge thanks VladTV for helping to convict ARAB.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, this is a motherfucker right here. Like, and ARAB did an interview recently, which was not our interview, number one. It was, I believe, was it Queen's Flip?
Okay.
Something like that, where he basically said, Vlad got nothing to do with my case at all.
Right.
At all. Like, none of my interviews were used or nothing I talked about was used, whatever. Like, he had an actual snitch that, you know, who he somewhat knew that ended up telling on everybody and cooperating and putting all this shit on everyone, which is why he got his time. But here I am having to deal with death threats and all the type of other bullshit because of this fake news article. You know, we were trending, Vlad was trending for like a day and a half over the whole Casanova thing.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, you got people like Questlove with like 20 million followers that are like retweeting this fake story.
Wow, really?
That's causing it to trend.
That's crazy.
You know, and
see, somebody like Questlove should know.
Like
that.
Questlove.
That's crazy.
Like who last I checked, I was cool with. Like, yo, like I remember running into him and like, you know, we used to DM each other on Twitter and, you know, I ran into him when he was DJing and said what's up to him. Like, I've always had a lot of respect for this dude. He's retweeting this fake ass story. You know, Vlad is not in the paperwork. Vlad or VladTV is not in Casanova's paperwork.
Yeah.
It just isn't.
And that's what I
this
hate.
fake ass story is going around.
Bro, people care so much more about confirming the shit that they already want to be true that they will willingly be diluted on social media. Like, and it's like people don't even fucking care about going through the appropriate process to figure out what's true or not. For me, even if it was my biggest enemy, the person I hate the most in the world, if it came out in the news that they did this or this bad thing that would make them look bad, I am not gonna retweet that shit or comment on that shit until I confirm that it's true. Yeah. And I feel like anybody with a decent platform online should have that same trigger in their head to be like, oh, I'm gonna figure out if this is true or not before I endorse it. And it's not just in rap, it's in, you know, like I'll see something about Trump that is just delectable and I'll be like, oh my God, like, you know, because I wanna read bad things about Trump. Like I want my deepest fantasies of Trump being a terrible person to be confirmed. But I'm not gonna go and spread some bullshit if it doesn't, if there's not weight behind it, you know?
No, man. I mean, interviews don't get people locked up.
Or if you really are stupid enough to say something in your interview that is going to get you locked up, I feel you. But this is the thing. When we're talking about Casanova, they have snitches and they have wiretaps. What you say in private is always going to be 1,000,000 times more incriminating than the shit that you say publicly with lights and cameras in front of your face for VladTV, which you know is going to get millions of views. I mean, Casanova, despite, maybe making some bad decisions in his life, was not so dumb that he was going to come in here and confess to a whole bunch of crimes. The worst shit that he confessed to on here, we talked about, right? Liquor store thing that he already went to jail for.
Mm-hmm.
And what, like fighting somebody in prison?
Yeah, he has stabbed someone in prison, which he talked about on multiple platforms.
Right.
On multiple platforms, which is not what he's even being charged for.
Right.
What he's being charged for is some shit that happened 5 years later. And they have 6 hours of wiretaps. They have his pictures in his phone, in his iCloud of
They
guns.
said they had his DMs with him instructing people on where and how to sell drugs in his DMs. And it's not like they had to confiscate his phone to see that. They send a subpoena to Instagram and said, Instagram, give us access to his DMs. And then they're able to sit there as if it was their own phone and look at all his DMs. I mean.
Yeah, they have a lot of shit on him, that originated from him, unfortunately.
Right.
Unfortunately. Now, hopefully, he can get off. Honestly. Like, hopefully, because, I did an interview with Kaz, and we've communicated a little bit here and there. We haven't done any second interviews, but we communicated. I remember, last time we talked, it was like cool and everything else like that. I hope he gets off, because it doesn't sound like he's being charged with any actual crimes. It's really more of like an affiliation kind of thing. So hopefully he could just beat it and come home. Like, honestly, I really hope, I like Casanova. I really hope he comes home and beats this whole thing. But to say that I'm the reason why he's locked up is crazy. And it doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense. But that's the thing that pisses me off, is that a motherfucker will really retweet some shit like that, quote tweet some shit, say some shit, put that on their story, and then it comes out that it's not true, and they don't feel an ounce of shame for having spread some fake news. And I don't understand that. For me, if I post something and I figure out that it's not true, I'm gonna fucking go very much out of my way to correct the record. And I just think that's kind of a sad state of affairs, when people care more about confirming their bias than being accurate.
Basically confirming their bias. Oh, like I don't like Vlad for whatever reason. Yeah, like Mark Lamont Hill was like, no one should be doing interviews with Vlad now. And it's like, yo, really, homie? Like, you came on my platform. Like, and that's the type of thing that's just like, you just gotta, because if you go out of your way to try to deal with it right then and there, that just makes the story bigger. And like, I remember when I posted a thing about ARAB, I posted, Vlad paid him off to say that. Pay off ARAB to say that? I didn't even know he was gonna say that.
Right.
But
it pisses me off
people,
when I see people do it to you, because they try to do it to me too. Like, I seen a bunch of comments about my presser interview saying, oh, look at Adam trying to get him to talk about his case. I literally said, what can you tell us about your case? Which is his case that he beat with some crazy ass shit. Very headline-inducing case. I said, how much do you want to say about that? He said, no, I don't even want to talk about that. I said, all right, bet.
That's that.
And I left it at that. And if he had wanted to give me every last detail about what happened that night, then I would have gladly heard it. But I'm not pressing anybody to talk about some shit they don't want to talk about. I hate when we get characterized that way.
Oh yeah. I'd heard a story that there's a email from an ex-VladTV employee that says that before I release my interviews, I send the raw footage to the police. Like, someone actually said this on camera.
How would that be advantageous to you?
First of all, let me just say this. When we do an interview, the entire interview comes out anyways.
Right.
Okay? It comes out, the entirety of it. So it's all out there. If the police really needed it, they just got to wait for the whole thing to come out.
Yeah.
I don't need to send it to them. Who's ever talking has a lavalier mic, a shotgun mic, and 2 cameras pointed at them at all times, just like you are right now. There's no secret recordings to be done. You're being recorded.
The part that pissed me off too is that motherfuckers will really have a whole ass conversation about this shit and not even have a good example. Because I can give you a good example. I can give you an example right now of a video clip on No Jumper that put somebody in jail, at least temporarily. We did a vlog, one of our biggest vlogs was Stupid Young in the hood in Long Beach. And at one point, there's a garage with all these kids just kicking it, smoking, chilling in this garage, like young dudes from his neighborhood, right? And there's an old broken machine gun on the ground. And he picks it up. It's not even like the whole gun, I don't think. It was like part of it or whatever. Like he picks it up and sort of waves at the camera, like that for 2 seconds. And in the vlog, there's one B-roll clip of that. He was on probation. He's not supposed to have a firearm in his hand. We put the vlog out. We had no idea. And then he ends up having to go to court for that afterwards because as a felon or whatever, like he's not even allowed to have that shit in his hand. If Stupid Young had hit me up, if he had said, like, I mean, number one, he did that in front of the camera, but if he had hit me up afterwards and said, yo, don't put that clip in, I'm on papers, whatever, we would have removed it. He didn't think of it. We didn't think of it. That's a shame. I felt horrible about the fact that he had to even go to court for that. That he might not, like, you know, if he did end up having to do time for that, not be around his kids for some period of time, I would feel horrible about that. There's been so many times where I did a Young Gleesh interview. He talked about everything like 4 years ago about his sexual assault case. The lawyer calls me. We can't put this out. Boom. We didn't put it out.
Yeah.
Still unreleased.
Yeah.
I would never want to put somebody in that position.
We've had a bunch of situations like that.
Like VladTV wants Casanova to be in jail? Hell no.
I want Casanova. And you know, and I'll just end it with this. The one video that people feel that they've proven that I'm the police was my interview with Lil Baby.
Yeah.
There you go.
And people have brought that up to me. Well, that shit was crazy with Lil Baby. And I luckily had already had the conversation with you. I'm like, nah, he had already said it in another interview. You just forgot.
Okay, you got into a fight with a white dude.
Exactly.
Was it like a racist thing? Was it like whites and blacks kind of clicked up in there?
How you know that?
Well, that's just how prison is most times.
I'm telling you, how you know I got into it with a white dude, though?
I think you may have mentioned it in the past. Everyone who thinks that I'm the feds and Lil Baby somehow blew my cover in that interview when I asked him about fighting a white racist when he was locked up. Go look up the interview with DJ Smalls and Lil Baby. Look at the dates.
Right.
Look at the date of that interview and look at the date of my interview. They're both on YouTube. It's all right there. Watch that interview and watch Lil Baby talk about fighting a white racist in prison.
Right.
And then watch me ask the exact same question to Lil Baby months or a year later or whatever else. He didn't remember he mentioned that to DJ Smalls, which is obvious because when you do interviews, you don't remember if you're not sitting there rewatching them carefully, you don't remember what the fuck you said or didn't say.
Right.
So he said, how you know that? And I played along with it.
Right. Which, by the way, that's Nardwar's entire thing.
Yeah.
That's like every question Nardwar says is like, you were in kindergarten and you had the purple crayon and people are like, how'd you know I had the purple
How'd you know that? How'd you know that?
I'm just saying, that's normal.
This
that's
is
what you do as an interviewer.
We research topics.
Yeah.
We watch other interviews that the person does. We dig in and look into stories and find everything that's publicly available on that person. So when we sit down, we can have a great interview. This is our job. And people are like, yo, he's the feds. And you know something? You know what I did? I would do flashbacks on that interview and get another million views here, another million views there. Like I've cashed out on this, you know, and then people are like, oh, look, he put it out himself. He is hiding in plain sight. That's what he's doing. Yeah. And it's like, yo, I just put it out myself again with the title of, you know, when Lil Baby figured out Vlad was the Fed, like I'm playing with it because I know there's no truth in the shit.
Right.
There's absolutely no truth in it. But y'all are convinced that I am the feds and somehow, you know, people do, oh yeah, well, Vlad talks about the time he got ripped off for a kilo of cocaine. And that was when he was compromised and the feds have made him do all this shit ever since then. So you mean to tell me that this happened in what, like 97? So you mean to tell me
you're handing over information on Casanova all these years?
I've been a federal informant since 97, way before I was even a DJ, before VladTV, before any of this shit, like over some shit like that. It's pathetic, man. It's pathetic But you can't fight it. You can't argue it. You gotta be like, whatever. You keep it moving, and whoever wants to jump on it and make up their own stories is fine. Not tripping.
I hear you.
Adam22, always a pleasure. Congrats on your success. Congrats on your new baby.
Appreciate you.
You know, congrats on that. That's a big move. That's a major step in your life.
Shout out
You know,
Parker.
from everything I've seen, and you've seen this play out so many different times. You see, like, you know, the Playboy Cardi, Iggy Azalea, the baby comes, falls apart. You know, G Herbo and Ari Fletcher, baby comes, relationship falls apart. You know, those first couple months in the beginning is always seems like the hardest part, and the fact that you guys have gotten through that part and you guys are together, man, it's commendable.
Oh yeah, we ain't had a fight, nothing. I mean, I don't really understand how people break up right after the baby, because to me it's like
It's the time not to break up.
Yeah, I'm determined as fuck to be a great father. Meaning, like, if we had issues, if me and her were beefing and fighting, I would be in therapy, fucking doing whatever I could to make it work for the kid, you know? Because to me, like, just having a kid, it's like, damn, I got a whole different thing to live for now.
That's what it is, man. Until next time.
Appreciate you, Vlad.
Peace.